And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Right, attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. Attention to roll call. Salute to Jessica Tisch, your new police commissioner of the NYPD. You know what, John? I was saying quite a few times on the podcast and different episodes on social media, this is the worst version of the NYPD, but I don't know. I think this might be the best version for comedy and for content for New York's Finest Retired Unfiltered podcast. So for that, I want to thank the NYPD leadership for giving us extreme amount of content. Our friends and listeners, 8:05 Eastern Time, 6:05 right now, Mountain Time for me. John, let's do it, brother. I know you're excited about this.
I love it, dude. I was, sorry we didn't go up live yesterday, people. It was a rough day for both of us, but, we were down. But like I think something might happen on Wednesday. They were moving a lot of stuff around. There was a lot of different press conferences. Times were getting moved around. It was weird. I was like, I think this is going to go down. But we all had Tucker. So Eric Adams, shout out to you, Eric Adams. You did a great job. And you held it tight to the chest. Everyone called Tish. Everyone had Tish. You said that we were all gaslighting everybody. And then what happened? You winded up appointing Tish. You held it. You waited a couple of weeks till it broke the news cycle, and you appointed Jessica Tisch. So shout out to you for keeping that one close to your chest and running the misdirection play. Good misdirection.
Outstanding. This was playing offense, right? As John Shell likes to say. The NYPD leadership is playing offense. They were putting maneuvers out there, letting us all think it was Ben Tucker. It turned out to be Jessica Tisch. Well, what can we say? I mean, Ron Layson says it. Says it right here. I mean, we're all thinking the same thing. Ron Layson says, "Good morning." What can I say? You can't make this shit up. You really can't. I mean, honestly, I don't know why they call Tom Donlin the interim PC. Everyone under Eric Adams should have been called the interim PC. And I'm sorry. I just want to publicly say I apologize to Ed Caban, saying he was the most insignificant police commissioner. He's now the second most insignificant. So when you get a chance, thank Tom Donlin. So you know what? I got a good question. Since Eric Adams is under indictment, it doesn't seem that the case against Ed Caban is going anywhere. Why not bring Ed Caban back?
Ed Caban, you know what? Who's going to be the sanitation police commissioner?
That's what I'm thinking.
Maybe I mean, he wasn't indicted. Eric Adams was. He didn't. I don't think at this point we can't. If we're going to stay by standards, the standard is you could get indicted and keep your job. So why this guy's only under one investigation? Eric Adams is under 5, and one of them he got indicted on. I say Ed Caban, next DSNY commissioner.
I mean, this is a hell of an administration, right? Eric Adams has 5 separate cases. Ed Caban got his phone taken. Most of the upper echelon get their phones taken. The chief of patrol took a life by accident in 2008. I mean, this is an interesting set of characters over here. Now, Eric Adams had said that he's got a hell of a bench, but apparently no one's been removed from that bench and utilized for this. Rich Rod, shout out to you, brother. $10 in a podcast. Guess we're getting coffee and donuts over here. He says, "Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to you, brother." I think this is a good one. So, Jessica Tisch, do you think she's qualified to be the police commissioner? Let's just say right there. Do you think she's qualified? Does she meet the qualifications?
Are we talking traditionally, or are we talking Eric Adams qualifications?
You know what? That's a good point. We need to have two standards, right? So the NYPD, as we knew it, and the NYPD under Eric Adams.
So I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to say, one, I think traditionally, law enforcement across the country, I think law enforcement experts, opinions, analysts, even though there's only a few of them, us and I think the chief, right, across and Patrick Jordan. I think that's about it. We're the only true police analysts out there currently. I think that So when we look traditionally, I'm going to say, yes, she's completely unqualified. She has no business holding the rank of police commissioner. But when I look at Eric Adams' appointments now, I think she's more qualified than Kaz Daughtry to be a deputy commissioner. I think she's more qualified than a lot of people. I think I don't see that things get held certain standards. Now, is she a good manager? She's by far a better manager than everyone in Eric Adams' administration. So I'm going to say right now that she's more qualified than the people that are currently in the upper tier of the NYPD, with the exception of like a guy like Joe Kenny, a couple other people in there that I might miss. And if I do, whatever, I don't care. It is what it is. But I'm going to say, with the exception of that, when we look at Marjorie Shell, Tersh Shepard, and Daughtry, when you look at their managerial competency, they have none. They have zero. When you look at her managerial competency, she's made mistakes, but she has a much higher level of competency. She's actually ran IT. Not only did she run ITB, she walked into ITB, Information Technology Bureau in the NYPD. She completely revamped it and actually made it a very well functioning bureau, and created this totally different atmosphere in the Information Technology Bureau. So I'm saying, as far as managerial skills, she's better suited than Marjorie, Shell, Daughtry, or Shepard, or Kinsella.
I think these are great, valid points, awesome points. I mean, I heard her press conference. I heard her speech. I thought it was very lucid. It was a pretty good speech, much better, much well spoken in comparison to her predecessor and Caban also. But what I noticed is she's already towing the line. So if you listen to the press conference, she goes on to say that the crime is down to pre-pandemic numbers, which is just hello there. But she goes on to say that crime is down to pandemic numbers. Can't even get that out. Which is just a complete lie. So here we are. Jessica Tisch, she has some of these managerial skills. She has been pretty innovative when it comes to ITB. I guess you could say, like Tiny Kinsella, she's a trailblazer. But again, she's doing gaslighting. She's towing the line, and she's saying that crime is down, and it's down to numbers, pre-pandemic numbers, which I think is just a complete lie right there. Eddie West, shout out to you, brother. Got to make sure you get a $28 to the podcast. That's a lot of coffee and donuts. He says, submitting my 28 to the finest desk. Absolutely. We got to get this thing stamped right away. Good morning. So will Tish have her home raided? Will she be another empty suit? Will she make personnel changes? Removing Kaz and Shepard. Will Adams say no to billionaire princess, billionaire money? Well, listen, let's start. Let's break this down. I think these are great questions. So first thing, your 28 is granted, brother. But you need to be at this post right now. So will Tish have her home raided? John, what are your thoughts? Do you think she'll be part of a potential corruption probe? Do you think that there's potential dirt under Jessica Tisch's nails?
No, I don't. I got a weird take on this, man. And I was on New York One yesterday. I went on a briefing with the chief in LA with Patrick Jordan yesterday. I did a couple other things yesterday, and I don't know if I did a great job of explaining it, but I love this appointment. I absolutely love it. Is it what did Bratton say this morning? Bratton had a ridiculous post this morning. What did he say this morning? He said, hold on, I got to read this because it was I was like, this is amazing. I was like, what an amazing time we live in. He said, congratulations to Mayor Adams on his excellent appointment to lead New York's finest. If there was ever a right time for the right person in the right place, the appointment of Jessie Tisch as New York City Police Commissioner would be it. Jessie will undoubtedly restore confidence in the NYPD, as her managerial skills are extraordinary, bringing with her to the position 12 years at the NYPD, where she brought the department technologically into the 21st century as the Deputy Commissioner of the Information and Technology Bureau. from crime-fighting smartphones and body-worn cameras to so much more. She then took that knowledge to the New York City's Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications and the Sanitation Department, ensuring both agencies were on the cutting edge of their respective work. I'm very confident in her capabilities, as should every New Yorker feel the same. So I think, this is setting up. We call it the greatest show on earth for a reason. Before I go any further, Eric, this is the greatest show. What do you think about Bill Bratton's statement?
I think Bill Bratton's statement is hilarious. First of all, I mean, here we are. Everyone else just pandering, towing the line, saying that Jessica Tisch is the best thing since sliced bread. First of all, was she innovative when it comes to ITB? Absolutely. I don't really know too much about her managerial skills. Some people text me saying that behind closed doors that she gets pretty crazy. So that's just a rumor I heard. So I don't know. In public, as far as her speaking ability goes, she was effective. She was clear. She was concise. But does she have the capabilities to be a police commissioner? And so that's why Eddie West says, will she be another empty suit? I don't think she'll be an empty suit, but I don't think she'll be the right suit. So this is quite interesting because with the money that she has behind her and the power and capabilities that she, along with her family, has to really help Eric Adams in his next campaign, if he survives that long. It looks like he will, right? It looks like he will survive that long. He needs Jessica Tisch and her family. So I think this might change the game a lot as far as for Kaz Daughtry and Tariq Shepard, which is the next question here. I think Bill Bratton knows that she has a lot more power than the other police commissioners before because money talks. But for Bratton to say that, like, this is excellent, and the timing kind of makes me believe that he'll never say it because he's towing the line with Eric Adams, that he knows that she's the only one that actually has the power and authority because the money that's behind it to actually make changes. What do you think?
Now, yeah, I think that's a great analysis. That's kind of how I feel. For one, I got to give Eric Adams credit because I think politically he's walking a tightrope. He's kissing up to Governor Hochul. He's kissing up to Donald Trump. And now he's kissing up to the big money political donors in New York. I'll bring up some donations here from the Tisch family to Eric Adams' 21 mayoral campaign. I don't believe Jesse Tisch was on that list, but a lot of people with the last name Tisch. I believe people who are related to her. I'm not 100% on that. But there is no doubt whether they are the same Tisches or they're not that are on that list, that the Tisch family are huge political donors. They're very wealthy billionaire family, owners of the Lowe's Corporation. So that's who Jesse Tisch is. Like, let's not call it what it is. Am I saying she has good managerial skills? Absolutely. I am saying that. Am I saying that she's qualified to be the police commissioner? No, I'm not saying that at all. I love this appointment for several reasons, though. She is tied to the power structure in New York. She's tied to the big money donors. So one, brilliant political move for Eric Adams, right? He's grabbing on straws. You have the big money power behind you now in New York City who have a vested interest in you staying the mayor in New York City, right? Because if I throw my name in the hat and win, or somebody throws their names in the hat and wins, Jesse Tisch is not going to be the police commissioner going forward. And everybody knows that. So now he gives the vested interest to the big money power in that. The other thing I like about this appointment, and it's a weird take on it, but it's the thing I like is I actually think this is good for the rank and file. I think that she has a lot of people around her, namely Bill Bratton, and people that are currently in the New York City Police Department, who really aren't out to kill and murder cops and really destroy morale. They really have a vested interest in improving this job. So I think she's going to do her best to do that. I have that feeling. I do. I don't know why I have that feeling. I just do. I'm basing it on how she ran ITB. There weren't people vesting out early when she ran ITB. There weren't people running for the hills when she ran ITB. There weren't people who were miserable when she was running ITB. So I think if she brings that same aspect as overall, I think it'll be good. I think that, she's going to put Marjorie, Shell, Tariq, and Daughtry, the real police commissioner, PPO, Daughtry, into, I think she's going to be able to rein them in, because I don't think they're going to be running around like cowboys. Now, do I know that she's going to be able to see everything? I don't. Do I know that she knows that crime actually isn't down? I don't know that. Obviously, she's saying that crime's down. Everyone's toting that line. Yeah, crime's down for a year period, but we all know at the end of this year that, after all of the numbers are added up, crime will not be down when we look back at 2024 in history. Because crime isn't down at all. When you look at Eric Adams' term, crime's up, I believe now it's up about 23% since he took office of violent crime overall. So I think it's a weird game that Eric Adams playing. I think it was a brilliant move on his part. It might backfire in his face, though.
So my take is this, right? So I think by Eric Adams and his team, it's a brilliant strategy. Is she meant to be the police commissioner? Absolutely not. But it's a brilliant strategy for this. So John Shell, Kaz Daughtry, and Tariq Shepard have been the mouthpieces for the police department. They've had pissy matches on social media. Some very embarrassing moments for the police department. And Eric Adams has defended that. The pre-indictment Eric Adams. The pre-please pardon me Donald Trump Eric Adams. But now that Eric Adams needs to survive, now that he's towing the line, he's ostracized by the Democrats right now. He's completely ousted at this point. He's put himself in that position, and he has to toe the line and try to get a pardon from Donald Trump. He also needs some big campaign money. And where does he get it? From the Tish family, where he's gotten it before. But this only creates that bond even more and solidifies his bankroll for him when it comes to his next campaign for possible reelection. Also, it gives him a great opportunity. Now, if he actually wants to put a muzzle and a mute button, as John Shell would say, if he wants to put a mute button on Kaz Daughtry and John Shell and Kaz Daughtry, well, Jessica Tisch could do it because she has the power, she has the money behind her, and she also has her confidant and her consigliere, which is Bill Bratton. And so it's easy for Eric Adams to say, hey, I didn't put a muzzle on them. She did. She's the police commissioner. If that happens, which I perceive to going forward. So that would be better for morale. That would kind of tip the scales and balance things out. Is she going to be effective when it comes to operational? Not sure, but she does have Bill Bratton in her ear. So she has the right people helping out. So I would say right now, this is the best appointment that they could have at this time in comparison to their predecessors. So she's the only one that has a chance to actually have any power and authority because of the money behind her. I don't think Tariq Shepard would push Jessica Tisch out of a photo. I don't think that's going to happen. So here's the question. What is this? What's Tanya Kinsella thinking, right? Because here we have the second female, right, appointed as the police commissioner. So that fits the first of many, right? The first white female police commissioner. But while you have Tanya Kinsella, who's considered a trailblazer, she's the first deputy commissioner. Eric Adams said that they have a deep bench. Just look at that bench. So what are you thinking right now if you're Tanya Kinsella?
I mean, she should just be happy that she's the first deputy commissioner. I don't know. I don't know what she's thinking. It would be hard for me to actually even try to pretend what she's thinking. I wouldn't be able to get into that mind frame, to be honest with you. So I think she should just be happy that she's the first deputy police commissioner because she's completely undeserving of that spot as well. I'll be honest with you. If you had to pick and you said, John, you have to pick between Tanya Kinsella and Jessica Tisch, I'm picking Jessica Tisch 100% of the time. 100% of the time, for a lot of reasons. A lot of it would be political. Yeah, 100%. It will also be a political appointment under Mayor John McCarry, but that would be who I picked 100% of the time, Jessica Tisch. So, and yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, Tariq Shepard's not pushing her around. I hope that, that she needs to do a lot of things. So I just want to read what I wrote about Tisch, because I don't think I'm having a hard time putting this into words about what I truly think about her, about this appointment, because I think it's going to be a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I don't know if it's a good thing for New York City and for the New York City Police Department. I think it's a good thing for Eric Adams, and I think for comedy purposes, it's hysterical. I think for like entertainment value, if New York City's a circus, which it is, it's the greatest show on earth. Eric Adams, the ringmaster, that's it. He brought all eyes to the show. There's lines out the door to get in. There are lines out the door to get in and watch this show, because this is what I wrote about the appointment. I responded to Brad and I said, Commissioner, I agree with you. If there ever was a right time for the right person in the right place, but only if you are talking politically. Despite his historical indictment, his lack of achievement, and the 4 other corruption probes surrounding him, Eric Adams boldly is seeking re-election. Appeasing the big money political donors in New York City is a brilliant move on his part to restore some life and energy to his political career. What's interesting about this, however, is I'm not sure he will be able to micromanage the new NYPD commissioner the same way he has his last 3. I'm not sure that Marjorie, Shell, Daughtry, and Shepard will be able to maneuver the same way they have the last 3 years. So while I believe this appointment is purely political on Adams' behalf for his own selfish reasons, it's definitely interesting. And I'm curious to see how this historical appointment, the first mayor to appoint 4 police commissioners in one term, plays out. It's called the greatest show on earth for a reason. And with New York City Mayor Eric Adams as the ringmaster, he has increased ticket sales and media attention 7-fold. As a mayor, Eric Adams is a disgrace. But as a character, he is a work of art. So that's my preliminary analysis on it. Like, I don't know that I did a good job on New York One as saying that. I don't know I did a good job of briefing at the chief with saying it, but writing it down, that is my analysis. I think it's brilliant on his part. Potentially could be good for the rank and file. Potentially could be good for New York City.
So I listen, I think we're saying the same things. I think the point has definitely gotten across. Politically, it's fantastic. It's brilliant by Eric Adams. I do think that Kaz Daughtry, John Shell, and Tariq Shepard will have the mute button put on them now. I do think it changes the game. We wanted that from Tom Donilon, but Tom Donilon turned out to be just a complete boob. He was actually a placeholder. He was more insignificant than Ed Caban. So we were completely bamboozled to believe that. So if anyone could put a muzzle on them, I do believe it's Jessica Tisch because of the power behind her. It's the money behind her that's talking, right? Eric Adams is going to actually, behind closed doors, be the one that puts the muzzle on them because he needs that funding from the Tish family right now. This is brilliant for him to survive. This is brilliant for him to make it to re-election. Is it good for the city? I don't think so. I don't think, because this is more pushing the technology. That's the only way that I see Kaz Daughtry survives with this administration, by still towing the line and playing this game about drones, because she's going to be also pushing technology. And Eric Adams said it in his press conference, right, that in this era that they're going to be innovative and that she's battle tested and that they're going to, fight this war out there with technology. And we saw how effective that was when a homicidal maniac, emotionally disturbed, mentally ill perpetrator went on a killing spree, killing 3 people going east to west in Manhattan in broad daylight. Yet we didn't see a drone in sight. It was boots on the ground police work that eventually made that arrest, that eventually stopped that homicidal maniac. Again, drones, all this technology, fantastic. It's supplemental, but it's supplemental to the human element. What she does have in her pocket is Bill Bratton to help her out with operations. So, but do I agree with everything with Bill Bratton? No, because Bill Bratton will also pander and make sure that he doesn't push the envelope too far, because he's going to actually toe the line with Eric Adams. So this is a big political circle. I mean, I think politics now is even more infected in this police department under Jessica Tisch, even far more than when it comes with Ed Caban and Tom Donilon and Keechant Sewell. But I don't think that she will abused as her predecessors were. They were abused in private and also abused in public. I think she has much more power because of the money that she has and what's behind her. But operationally, could she be better? Could she be better for morale? Yes. When it comes to put a muzzle and a mute on Kaz Daughtry, John Shell, and Tariq Shepard, which is completely necessary now, yes. But when it comes to other aspects, I think not. Could she, as a billionaire heiress, could she relate to an everyday cop who makes $100,000 a year? Absolutely not. She can't relate. So there's definitely a lot of holes when it comes to this. Is this a better appointment than the others? Yes, surprisingly. I think this would be a far better appointment than Tiny Kinsella. But again, This is not because it's beneficial for the police department. This is because it's beneficial for Eric Adams.
Yeah. Ron says, Ron, we're going to bring the speech in, but Ron points out, I forget the exact verbiage, but Adams said she will run the job administratively while Marjorie does the crime fighting. I think she's going to get involved in the crime fighting. I agree with you, Eric. I don't think that she could look at has the same eyesight as an average everyday police officer, as well as an average citizen. Because I think it's more important for the police commissioner to actually see through the citizen's eyes than actually the police. So I don't think she has either of those. So I don't know if she knows the plight that New Yorkers are facing, everyday New Yorkers, especially as it relates to crime. A lot of people don't live in security guarded buildings, in very safe neighborhoods. So I don't know that she has it, but when we look at her getting pushed around, I mean, the other thing I like about her is, I mean, she's worked for the city for, I don't know, however long now, 16 years, 17 years, whatever it is. And now, does that qualify you to be the police commissioner? Maybe it qualified Daughtry to be a deputy commissioner. So maybe, but she's made $0 from working for the city. She's taking $0 from New York City. Zero. She's coming to work and doing it because she wants to do it. People that don't care about money are dangerous people. They're dangerous people, and that's why very religious people are looked at as dangerous. People that don't care about money are looked at as dangerous, right? Because when you're not beholden to the mayor, I don't need this job, guy. I'm fine. My houses are fine. My kids are fine. My future's fine. I can do whatever I want. I'm doing this because I want to. I don't have to do this. I'm not under your reign. You're not reigning over anything. I'm the police commissioner. You appointed me. And I think Bratton nails it without realizing that he nailed it. She's the perfect time, and she's the perfect person in the perfect time at the perfect place for one reason. I don't think he could do anything to her. I think Jessica Tisch has the opportunity to be the first police commissioner under Eric Adams if she does it. I'm not saying she's going to do it, but if she wants to do it, she could revamp the entire police department. She could kick out the internal affairs chief right away. That's the first thing I would do, restore corruption and fix the systems that are happening. I would wipe clean slate. What's he going to do? He's going to appoint a fifth police commissioner? What's he going to do? He has no chess moves left. This was his last chess move. Jessica, I don't know if you know it, but you are running New York City right now. You are running the New York City Police Department. You have the ability to maneuver any which way you want. Run the police department like you are the police commissioner. And you're not beholden. Run the police department like you're a duly elected constitutional sheriff and run it the way you see fit.
100%, brother. I agree. This is chess right now. And Eric Adams is the king. He can move one space, right? He can move one space back and forth. But Jessica Tisch, she's the queen right now, and she can move all the way across the entire board. She can do whatever she wants with the power and the money that she has behind her. She could actually move mountains right now. She could actually change the entire police department. I think it's brilliant by Eric Adams because Eric Adams said, hey, she's the police commissioner. I've already given her the authority to make changes and to do what she wants with the police department, what she sees necessary, because it's beneficial to Eric Adams. Eric Adams has to think about how he could move forward, get the right campaign money so that he is moving forward with re-election. I wouldn't be surprised if the Tisch family is going to help Eric Adams with his funding for his cases, his 5 separate cases when it comes to his attorneys. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to help him out with that type of funding also. This is a very smart move by Eric Adams. So at this point, I don't think he cares about the police department. He didn't care about the police department before. I sure as hell think he doesn't care now. And this just allows them to propel forward even more when it comes to technology and start pushing even further this drone program, because she was innovative and she was the commissioner for ITB. So now she's going to be the police commissioner for ITB. This is going to be the ITB police department of the entire nation. Absolutely. We talked about artificial intelligence for the past year. This is going to be artificial intelligence on steroids. So again, there's no standard anymore. There's no bar to be set. Kaz Daughtry was elevated by rocket fuel. So was Tariq Shepard. So what's the difference when it comes to Jessica Tisch? So right now, it doesn't make any difference. And I think Ron Lace is spot on. He did say in the press conference, he did allude to that it would be like a two-tiered system. That Chief Jeffrey Maggi would take care of the crime-fighting operations in the street, and then Jessica Tisch would move forward with technology and the administrative portion for the police department. He did say that. Ron Lason, you're spot on. But speaking of Jeffrey Maggi, I just want to say he absolutely is the puppet master, and he's also the Teflon Don. I mean, we saw recently an article came out where a judge tossed a lawsuit from Tabitha Foster, who's quite often here, quite often a friend and listen to the podcast, and that case was tossed out. So Jeffrey Maggi, I mean, he's got 9 lives. He really is the Teflon Don. There's no doubt about it. But when we get back to Jessica Tisch, I agree with you, John. This is actually a smart, intelligent appointment. And it's beneficial for Eric Adams, but as a byproduct, it may be beneficial for the rank and file in certain aspects.
Yeah, I'm not saying that she's going to be great. I'm just saying she has the opportunity to be great. Crowdsource the Truth says, aren't actual police officers pissed off they hired an executive lady to be the commissioner? Yeah, I mean, I think, you could go online. You could go on any post about her. You're going to see retired cops, active cops, anyone surrounding law enforcement knocking this appointment. I'm going to say it again. I love this appointment. I think it's brilliant for Adams, even though I can't stand him. And I hope that he's not the mayor. I hope we have a competent mayor. But if we continue to run the people that we're running, I'm more than likely going to work on Eric Adams' campaign, because I don't see anyone that's capable of beating him, or that should beat him, or might, potentially. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on. So I think it's a brilliant move politically, but I think he kind of boxed himself in. And I think Eric brought a good analogy of it, is that he put someone else on the board with as much power as him. And this is the first time we've seen it. So this is, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying she's going to do the great things. Boobies for Life says she quotes whatever fudge numbers are put in front of her. Yeah, I don't know that she's going to be able to see through it, but I know there's going to be people close to her that are going to try to show her what's going on. And I hope that she's able to see that she truly is able to move on this board any way she wants. This is a video from Keechant, Sewell. She was speaking at a women's conference while she was still the NYPD Police Commissioner. It's clear as day who she's talking about. She's talking about the likes of Tariq Shepard, Kaz Daughtry, John Schell, Jeffrey Maggi. It's clear as day who she is talking about when she's talking. So I don't believe that Jessica Tisch is going to have to worry about this. And I don't want to say, I'm sit here and say, oh, it's all because of the donations. It's when I say the big money power structure, I'm not saying just the donations. I'm saying the political clout, the connections you have, your ability to influence business owners. The big money political structure in New York City controls New York City politics. They control New York City media. They control the New York City Police Department. So she is a representative, not Keechant Sewell was not a representative of them. Jessica Tisch is a representative of them. It's going to be quite different. It's going to be a quite different appointment. Was Keechant Sewell a good appointment? I think Keechant Sewell, I said it before, was his best appointment by far, probably in his entire administration. And I even thought that was a political move on his part. And I thought that he made her a DEI hire. We didn't. He did. And he made Ed Caban a DEI hire. Ed Caban should have never been the police commissioner. Tom Donilon should have never been the police commissioner. He should have actually had someone come in there that he thought was going to lead, right? But instead, he did the interim thing again. So listen to this. This is a good speech. You tell me who she's talking about. I know who I think she's talking about.
When you take on new challenges and positions, it is often helpful to know that your experience is not unique that others have been here before, that someone can relate, that someone else, anyone else, can tell you what to expect. I am privileged to be able to provide that for you. You are different. You will be treated as such. Don't be offended when people who don't know you tell others who you are. Try not to take it personally when people you have never met tell others what you think. Understand that you will be second guessed, told what you should say, told what you should write by some with half your experience. They don't know any better. WNBA legends get challenged by weekend pickup game hobbyists. You will get free, unsolicited personal advice. Your hairstyle is wrong. You look tired, already worn out in less than a year. You should wear different clothes. You're not qualified. You are in over your head. None of this is true. When you are no pushover, you will be called difficult. When you do things your own way, you don't listen. You are paranoid. Your very existence is a problem for many.
Seems like it's a real friendly environment in the Adams administration. I do think she was talking a little bit about us too, but I get it.
Listen, I got to be honest. I can't help it, but you can't help to like her. I mean, she shows great poise. She looks strong in her delivery. She's exactly what, if I had to close my eyes and envision what a woman police commissioner should look like and present herself, this is it. This is it. She's got the poise, her posture, her demeanor. She appears strong and fair at the same time. She appears to have good leadership qualities. She was never given that chance. I think that's we were critical about her. I think she's speaking about us also. I don't think we ever said anything that were negative about her. We just said she was never given and afforded the opportunity to actually be the police commissioner. Now with all her talent,
we knocked her
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, no, we knocked her.
I mean, definitely when it came to the disciplinary matrix.
I know I did.
No, I did, but I don't think that we were really harped on it. We talked a lot about the great qualities that she has. I was saying she never was really given the opportunity. I think it was a complete sham when it came to disciplinary matrix, actually making changes when it came to that. But, I mean, you can hear, when she's talking right here, she's emotionally invested that she faced a lot of opposition. And it seemed like it was a pretty abusive environment behind closed doors. And if she had the money and the family behind her that Jessica Tisch has, she'd be a force to be reckoned with. She'd be a hell of an appointment and she would be a police commissioner. I think I have an ability to read a room. I think I have a good judge of character. And I think she has all the working components that you need. I think she has it. She just was never given the opportunity. It sounds like it was a very abusive environment. I am disappointed that she signed off on the termination for Sal Greco, things like that. I'm disappointed when it came to the disciplinary matrix. We expected actual changes to come from her. It didn't. But I understand it seems like it was a very abusive environment. And I hope that one day she actually speaks out about that environment. We understand she's speaking here and she's very subliminal messages. But I hope one day she actually speaks out about the administration, talks about what she faced and what she actually intended for the rank and file and for the city and the opposition that she met. I hope she speaks out about it. I really do.
Well, and the other thing, to be fair, I speak to a lot of people that were close to her, whether she knows it or not. And I know that she was fully intended to bring all of us back that left during the mandate. And that was basically axed. It was completely axed by Eric Adams. So, again, she would have had a much different department. She would have had thousands of experienced officers who actually cared about the job back, right? She would have had good people that never had any, zero disciplinary, nothing, right back to work, thousands. So that would have helped alleviate what you saw right there, where with the constant beat down on the overtime, the constant tour changes, all of, it's basically, it's like a death cycle, right? Like it just keeps happening. You're smashing people with overtime, you cause more retirements, you cause more people to resign, you cause more people to invest, and that causes more overtime and more people, right? And it just keeps happening, right? And so she could have kind of put a stop to it, but Adams didn't let her. So to be fair, I just want to say that. But I want to congratulate Jessica Tisch, because I don't think it's fair that she doesn't get a first, because we constantly refer to Keechant Sewell. She's the first female commissioner. She's the first Black female commissioner. And Jessica Tisch now is only being called the second female police commissioner. But that's not an accurate title. That is not an accurate title, because in my opinion, not in my opinion, for a fact, Jessica Tisch is the first white female police commissioner to hold that spot. Why is that not a title, don't you think? Like, why isn't that an achievement to be the first white female, the first Jewish, right? The first Jewish female police commissioner, the first white Jew and Jewish female police commissioner. Why is that not an achievement today in New York City?
Yvette, how you doing? Good morning. Yvette says, I want to read this real quick. These things are flying in here. What did you say? Okay, Yvette. Well, she can't fool me. I'm not a fan of her ego. That's the issue with women leaders as well. Times their egos. What else is here on it? I'm just trying to get the rest of her comment here. Oh, here we go. At times, their egos are larger than any man, and it's detrimental to the work and choices. Yvette, how you doing? Great friend to the podcast. She's always here. I have to push back a little bit and just say that I think I'm a pretty good judge of character, and I can read a room. I don't find her to be egotistical. I find her posture to be very fair. She's upright. I think her demeanor and poise is excellent. I think she's very stoic. But I did expect her, with that strength that I see from her, to stand up to this administration, actually speak out publicly. Maybe she's speaking behind closed doors when it comes to Damian Williams with the Southern District. That's possible. But that's what I wanted from her. I wanted from her to actually speak out publicly, because if it's actually an abusive environment, which we believe it is, and it's actually misused, and it's actually affecting morale and public safety, then you have a duty to speak out. And if you don't, then you're a coward. So, and unfortunately, would fall into the same category as Kaz Daughtry, Tariq Shepard, and John Shell when it comes to cowardice and people with egos over everything. So, but Yvette, thank you so much. We appreciate your input. You know it.
Yeah. So here is the first white and female white NYPD, first Jewish female NYPD police commissioner. I'm gonna bring her up to the screen now. Let's hear a little bit of the speech. This is coming in from ABC News. And then we're going to have some guests join us. We got Sal Greco is going to join us in a few minutes, and also Marlon Bethel is going to join us. So, all right, let's hear this. Here is a little bit of that introduction.
What she has done over at the Department of Sanitation and the other fields that she has provided, the city government. Commissioner Tish does not have to be in city government. She's here because of the love of the city, coming from a family that has been committed and dedicated to the betterment of New York City, and using her experience and expertise to take us to the next level. Our department is going to be so much better in the area of innovation. As Chief Madry holds down the public safety arm with the partnership of the commissioner, I need the commissioner to move us into what modernized policing should look like, so we can not only help those who are here in New York City, but start helping those across the entire country. What we do here cascade throughout the entire country, as we see what Commissioner Daughtry is doing with technologies from drones to other use of technology. And after leaving the NYPD, Commissioner Tish served as Commissioner of the New York City Department of Information Technology and Telecommunication, where she ran the largest municipal IT organization in the country. Commissioner Tish additionally served as a core member of the team that managed the city's COVID-19 pandemic response, building and managing critical programs that tangibly serve New Yorkers, including the city's vaccination system. Most recently, Commissioner Tish, as you know, has served as the city's second biggest hater of rats in the city. As Commissioner of the Department of Sanitation, for nearly 3 years, Commissioner Tish has been one of the most successful managers in our administration, leading the city's waste collection, recycling and disposing, as well as cleaning and snow removals for approximately 6,500 miles of city streets. On her leadership, New York City has seen generational changes in sanitation services, including the launch of the trash revolution. Everyone told us it was going to take us 5 years to start the containerization of garbage, which to date we have witnessed 70% of trash in New York City will now be required to be containerized. And she's rolled out a weekly universal curbside composting service to all 3.5 million residents in New York City. But now Commissioner Tish will take on a new role, fighting a different kind of vermin as Commissioner of the greatest police department on the globe. The people of this city have been clear. They agree with what our administration have been fighting for since day one. A safer city where they don't need to worry about walking down the street or having their 7-year-old daughter shot or having their mother.
At Acellus Academy.
Well, first of all, Eric Adams can't help himself, but he loves subliminal messages, right? We talk about it all the time. He loves to just put things out there. He said it right there. He just showed his cards, right? Jessica Tisch and her family. I mean, that's really who's behind this, right? It's Jessica Tisch and her family. It's money that got her appointed to this. I'm not taking away from her ability. From what I know, she's very intelligent. Her speech was very lucid, very intelligent. He's very innovative when it comes to ITB. But again, does that make you a police commissioner? Now, I will say this is one of those positions. I don't care how smart you are. Sanitation, and also fire department. I'll lump fire department with the police department. Sanitation, these other agencies are very important, vital to the arteries of New York City, of flowing every day. But in order to be a police commissioner for the fire department and the New York City Police Department, I do believe no matter how intelligent you are and no matter how much money you have behind you, you should have had to walk in those shoes. If you're going to be a fire commissioner, you should have had to be a fireman yourself. And same thing for police commissioner. You should have had to be a police commissioner at some point. Absolutely. I just think
I don't know if I agree with that. We've had some really good police commissioners who were never cops. Teddy Roosevelt, a lot of different people. I could go down the list. There's a lot of people who were never really cops. I don't know that.
I think Teddy Roosevelt's an anomaly, and I mean, really, to compare her to Teddy Roosevelt is.
And I'm not a fan of Bratton either, but him too. He wasn't an NYPD guy. You know what I mean? He was a Boston cop first. He came over to NYPD, then he went to Boston, but he was a Boston kid. Like he grew up there. I don't know. I guess he was a cop. I take it back. He was a cop.
Right.
But I don't know, man.
I get it. But I think that I think these are two professions, fire department and the police department, that you should have had at some point to walk in those shoes to really understand the mindset of a police officer and also fireman, especially a police officer, right? Because most things that we do in the police department are built on mindset, intent, right? Even when it comes to the case of people versus Connor. I'm sorry, Connor versus Graham. Actually, Graham versus Connor, right? And it's all built, if that Supreme Court case is all built on what's happened in real time, right? If a police officer is going to be judged on force or action the police officer took in a particular incident, it's Graham versus Connor of what that police officer sees in real time, which is the problem that I have with the Civilian Complaint Review Board. When they break down a video, they watch it frame by frame. They never sat in the shoes of a police officer to understand what they feel and what they see and what type of information they retain. So she can't understand that either. As intelligent as she is, she still never walked in the shoes of a police officer. So I do think that when it comes to those two professions, I do think it's necessary. Your mic.
Sorry, I think
Not
that
sorry, you've been off like a good 2 minutes.
yeah. Sorry. I think like for the police commission, it's more important to have a top-down view of the city, overall health of the city, than the eyes of just a police officer. I think you need to have a broad perspective. I don't think a lot of cops do have that broad perspective. So I don't think you're going to find a lot of cops that are necessarily police commissioner material that I would consider. Like, I think that I think you could be a great manager in a field that you were never in. And that's true for policing as well. I really believe that. I believe that if you're a good manager and you don't understand the game of baseball, but you learn it, you could potentially be a good manager. Are there going to be learning curves for you? 100% there's going to be learning curves for everybody. But listen, we got let's bring in some other people to weigh in on this. I'm going to bring up to the stage first. I got Sal Greco, the Sal Greco. This is like a tradition here. Every time somebody gets indicted or a police commissioner gets changed, we bring up Sal Greco from the Sal Greco show. So let's get Sal Greco's thoughts. And right after he goes, we're going to bring up Named Bethal as well. We got Named Bethal backstage as well, too. So,
Wait,
Sal,
John.
Sal,
what's up, brother? But, John, before Sal answers, I just want to ask you this question, because I know this is important. Is she vaccinated? Is Jessica Tisch vaccinated?
Yes, she is. Listen, and so just so everyone knows, I believe that she was a big supporter of the mandate, from what I'm told. I don't know if she was a supporter of all of us losing our jobs. I don't know that. But from what I hear is she did support it. She did do some work to bring that whole system in place, as far as put the databases in place. But I have no problem with it as long as she is. It's people like Kaz Daughtry and John Schell and Jeffrey Madry, who them and all their friends didn't have to do something, but forced people like myself and Named Bethal, or attempted to force people like myself and Named Bethal to do something we didn't want to do, and then forced thousands upon thousands of people to do it. Those are the people I have a problem with. Like I said, I never have a problem disagreeing with someone. I have a problem when you think that the rules apply to me and not to you. So without further ado, Sal, what's up, brother?
Sal, what's up, man? Good to see you, brother.
It's an honor to be back here. You know, I've been listening to the whole show. I have a completely different take, or somewhat of a different take on this. Obviously, you know, I studied Eric Adams due to all this contentious court battle I have with him and his cronies. This is another empty suit appointment. She's a police commissioner in name only. You did home in on one thing. He did mention her family, because yes, I would like to ask Eric himself, if all the money the Tish family donates to Eric Adams, does he have his own personal VIP box at MetLife Stadium for the Giant games? I don't know, but he seems to, you know, I know they donate to him. I know he's close to the family. I know Tish already works for him as a sanitation police, but notice in the last few press conferences, and if you go back to his own the other day, which I featured on my show, keeps bringing up Kaz Daughtry. We are all in this, even on this show, I believe we're all under the same contention that it is Kaz Daughtry who is the true de facto police commissioner. I mean, he was with John Schell just the other day. I will talk about this later with Dr. Phil and the whole, filming his own personal segment with the police department. So to me, she's just another police commissioner in name only, because she's going to want to change things up. She's going to want to bring her own people, and they may allow that. But what do we know about Eric Adams? Eric Adams is a highly conflicted individual who surrounds himself with corruptible people. In the end, you work for him, not the other way around. He's going to make you believe, yeah, you have a say. When it comes to the police department, this is his little baby, because he's the former ex-cop that, you know, I was out there 22 years, even he was a house mouse. But that's his whole shtick. And he only trusts a few people. And right now, the closest that he has to him is Kaz Daughtry and Tariq Shepard. So again, she might be police commissioner, but that's only a police commissioner in name only.
So what do you think overall? Overall, do you hate it? And if so, I mean, you know, I was on New York One last night. They asked me who I would want to see as the police commissioner. And I said, absolutely nobody. I want to see Eric Adams be removed from office. You know,
Correct.
so I was like, there's not a name in my head. So so I just want to ask you guys that same question. So Sal, you go first and then Eric. What are your overall thoughts? Good, bad, horrible? Who should Adams have picked, if anybody?
Okay, so I think it's good politically because if you haven't noticed, he's been going to the Mishitma with the Mishak, the Jewish cemetery, where he thinks that if he makes a wish on a note and he rips it up, he's not going to get indicted again or whatever. So he's buttering up to a certain community, we'll say. It's all political. In reality, Kaz Daughtry and Tariq Shepard will always run this police department, no matter what face he puts on there. So other than, before him, you had this Tom Donlin who got raided day one or 2 days into the job. Eddie Caban, who was really, that guy, was he really ever the police commissioner? He was always partying 24/7. And then you had Sewell, who stepped into the role, and I believe she thinks she was going to be the police commissioner, but really it was Philip Banks, Kaz Daughtry, Tim Pearson, and the whole gang running the police department from behind the scenes. So it's good politically. It's really bad for the morale of this police department because my phone was blowing up. The cops, supervisors do not like this move. They do not respect her. She was never in uniform. She was hiding in a unit. She's another person at the technology bureau. What does that mean? Have you ever stepped in the street? Have you ever handcuffed someone? Have you ever had any camaraderie with cops? The answer is going to be no. And she does have a scandal that I know of. I don't know if it's ever been public that she did at the office. So again, this is just, it's good politically, bad for the police department.
Eric, what do you think, bro?
You know what? Maybe I should even clarify it, okay? Because we spoke about Teddy Roosevelt. If Jessica Tisch was former SEAL Team 6, I don't think we would have any issue with her not being a cop. But I think you should have, at some point, have had to walk in the face of danger to be a police commissioner, right? No matter how intelligent, I'm not taking that away from her. I think she's intelligent. I think she has poise. So what I am curious, right, and someone had put in the comments here earlier, is the Shaman Society going to name her Man or Woman of the Year? Are the fraternal organizations gearing up right now? Is the Hispanic Society, are they going to start speaking Yiddish? Are they going to put her out for Woman of the Year? Are the other fraternal organizations jumping on board? It's interesting what you said, Sal, because I agree with you. I think I agree with you and I agree with John, because John initially said that it's good for morale. And I agree. In some cases, it's good for morale because I do think that she's the only one that's going to have an ability to, and I'm using the same words that John Shell used, to put a mute button on John Shell, Kaz Daughtry, Tariq Shepard. So she's the only one that can put a muzzle on them and to stop these mouthpieces. So that would help morale. But that's very short term. But to help morale as a whole, I agree. Are they going to be able to respect her? She's not someone that was SEAL Team 6. She wasn't in the military. She didn't face danger. And not only that, to even top it off, she's a billionaire heiress. They're going to look at her as someone that grew up with the silver spoon. She can't relate to them. I mean, these police officers, maybe because her father is a part owner of Lowe's, maybe he could send over some wood and fix up some of these precincts, because these guys are working some grungy locations. I mean, PSA 2, these guys half the time they're working in underwater. Their lockers are in sewer water. So, but for the most part, I mean, this is just a political game. It's another political appointment. I don't think this is going to last. I think that we're going to be headed for a fifth police commissioner. I don't think this is going to last.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
I don't think so at all. And just to clarify, I didn't say that this is good for morale. I said it could be good for morale. I'm not making a prediction on it. I'm just saying I think that Eric Adams exhausted all his options. I think this is it. I think this is fourth police commissioner. This is all the options he's got in the first term. Jessica Tisch, if she can do it, can be the boss of the New York City Police Department, the first one that we've had under Eric Adams. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that he's exhausted all options. He made his move politically to try to attempt to be re-election while he's walking this tightrope between Kathy Hochul and Donald Trump. He's walking the tightrope. He makes this move politically to keep the power structure behind him in New York City. So to keep him the front runner for the Democratic seat as mayor. So I think he's doing that. He's walking that tightrope. And I think this was his last piece, but I think Jessie Tisch is now a power player, whether she knows it or not. She's a power play. I don't think that he could make a move. I think that if she wanted to decimate the New York City Police Department right now and revamp the Internal Affairs Bureau, make appointments, hire people, fire people, I think that she has the ability to do it. I don't know that she will do it. So it is a potential. But before we go any further, I just want to bring up to the stage, we got Marlon Bethel. And I just kind of want him to weigh in initially, like what he thinks about the appointment. Does he like it? Does he hate it? What does he think it'll be do for morale? Without further ado, NYPD intel detective terminated non-disciplinary for absolutely no reason, but being an honest person, holding on to integrity, Marlon Bethel. Marlon, what's up, brother?
Morning, fellas. How's everyone doing today?
Very good. How you
Marlon,
doing?
outstanding. Outstanding. We were trying to get you appointed as PC, but unfortunately you were unvaccinated, so we had to go with Jessica Tisch. Good morning.
Yeah, morning. Thanks for having me on. I haven't been on here in a while, so let's hope I'm not too rusty. Yeah. My feelings on this is that Tish is brought in to manage further decline. I think the city's problems, the NYPD's problems go way beyond just the department. I think it's related to the city's overall problem of hemorrhaging people and businesses. And because we're losing both, the city's losing revenue, and the department is going to have to function with less people, and the department's going to have to do more with those less people. And I think Tish is brought in essentially to manage that decline by using technology and by her connects to the business community, by integrating their knowledge into the department and maybe their access to whatever other AI or other advanced technologies out there. I think the right choice should have actually been somebody with policing experience. I mean, we have a large department that has hundreds, if not thousands, of highly educated cops who have Ivy League degrees, cops who have managerial, we're talking academic, trained managerial knowledge. These people should have been elevated to the top to run the department, as opposed, and Eric should fix the city in general, whereas right now he's looking to make Tish basically kind of manage the problems the problems of the lack of manpower and the lack of staff. I think right now the city needs to concentrate on meat and potatoes policing and not worry about the drones and the AI and the stupid robots. You know, we need cops on the street. You know, you can have 1 million robots, but they don't have hands, they don't have legs, and they can't empathize with victims on the street. So that's my initial thoughts on her appointment.
So me and Eric were going back and forth about whether or not the police commissioner needs to be a cop. I say that it doesn't. And Joe Bonner brings it up, E-Man Detective. I brought up Teddy Roosevelt, that he was one of the most storied police commissioners in NYPD history. He actually was never the title of police commissioner. He was prior to the inception of New York City. So he held some other title. I forget what it was. But they said in 1886, Teddy Roosevelt was a deputy sheriff in Billings, North Dakota. 100%. It's not New York City. That's not a New York City cop. 100%. Totally different animal. I even said the same thing about Keechant Sewell, right? I said her coming from Nassau, that she doesn't have, she's gonna need a learning curve to learn the New York City Police Department. So when I'm not even saying, like, there's a couple of different things here. I'm saying someone doesn't need to be in policing to be the police commissioner. But I think we need to clarify, does someone need to come internally from the New York City Police Department to be a police commissioner, or does someone just need to come from law enforcement to be the police commissioner? Because I don't believe just coming from law enforcement puts you and gives you an understanding. Yeah, you have an understanding of being a cop. You have an understanding of having a gun belt. You have an understanding of use of force, encountering people. but you don't have a traditional understanding of the New York City Police Department that is like any other agency. There is no other agency in the world. Maybe LA you could compare it to, and even that, the differences are so extreme, it's not even funny. This is the largest municipal police department in the world. At one time, we were the 6th largest sitting army in the world. I think it's a totally different animal. So I think we should just go around on that. Eric, go, and then Sal, go. Eric, what do you think about that? Do they have to come internally from the NYPD?
So I agree with you in the sense that I don't think that the police commissioner has to come internally from the NYPD, but I do believe the NYPD is a different animal, right? There's always going to be a learning curve. If you came from Billings, North Dakota, Billings, Montana, if you came from somewhere in New Hampshire or somewhere in Oregon, another state in this country, or even if, whatever the case is, would there be a learning curve? Absolutely. New York is a metropolis like no other. I've been to cities all over the entire country and all over the world. There's nothing like New York. There's nothing as dense as New York, as cosmopolitan as New York. Absolutely not. It's fast moving. Even as a police officer, I always tell people, even on a day which we consider a slow day, it's still busy. It's still busy. It's just the working parts, the components of New York City. So is there a learning curve? Yes. But I do think that you should have been in a position where you had to face danger, where you had to have a gun belt, or just be in a position that you face danger and had that adversity so that you could actually be emotionally invested and have the compassion and empathy for your police officer. So you can understand a Supreme Court case like Graham versus Connor and understand that there's a difference to evaluate something happening in real time in comparison to actually happening and controlling and watching something, viewing, given perspective in a controlled environment. And that's always been my take and my issue when it comes to Civilian Complaint Review Board, because they don't take into account for that Supreme Court case. So am I willing to give her a chance? Absolutely. Do I think that this is going to be effective? Marlon, by the way, I want to thank you for coming on. And Sal, of course, you guys bring up fantastic points. And that's the whole point of this podcast, that we all network together and we bring up different points and compromise somewhere in the middle. I think we all tend to agree mostly when it comes to this. We have some disagreements. But I think ultimately, yes, is there always going to be a learning curve? Absolutely. But I think being in some form of law enforcement or military, somewhere you had to face danger, absolutely should be a prerequisite, no matter what her college degree says. I mean, look, she's a Harvard grad. Obviously, she's intelligent. She comes from a family of money. So she's been exposed to people at a high caliber. She has a people of high economic status. Does that make her have the ability to lead a police department in New York City? No, it doesn't. Did she do a good job at ITP? Yes, but that's compartmentalized. Could she be an actual operational police commissioner? And Eric Adams said it in his press conference. She's not going to be. She's going to be on the administrative part. She's going to be part of technology. And just like you said, Marlon, we need boots on the ground. The real policing, I don't care if it's 1886 or 2026. That's never going to change. That is the most important key element, is the boots on the ground.
So what do you think? Does she need to be a police? Does the police commissioner need to be in law enforcement or be a member of the NYPD?
It has to be somebody. I would say somebody with some sort of law enforcement background. So they have some knowledge of. Because look, Tom Donlin, who at this point should have been fired a long time ago. Here's a guy who was he came from the federal department. He has other than being part of that JTTF from the federal side, does he really understand the police lingo? Does he understand different paperwork? It's so him being police commissioner was very odd. It was just a quick fix. Get the guys from the Bronx. We keep looking at the Bronx. There's all kinds of questions with that, or who was he really associating with, for the last 20 years. So, I just think this with Eric Adams, it doesn't matter who you see as his appointee for some position. Eric Adams is the boss. In the police department, he seems to have a huge sway or a huge say in there. And the real boss, in my opinion, from what I'm looking at, from everything you see, it's Kaz Dodry. So it doesn't matter who he puts up there. He is appeasing his donors right now. Oh, look who we have as the police commissioner in name only. PCINO. That's who she is. And I see some people with their comments in here. And we'll go back because you keep saying and mentioning our favorite nightclub that shut, a Con Sofrito. We're going to go back because here's an interesting one. Next week, your favorite police commissioner you seem to mention all the time, Keechant Sewell, I'm going to be deposing her. Because remember, she fired me. So for everyone who says she's great and all this stuff, she was pictured with all the Caban brothers and Jimmy Rodriguez. Remember Jimmy Rodriguez, that self-admitted criminal mob associate who owned Jimmy's Bronx Cafe? I sent you guys the article last night. He was part of a heroin trafficking ring. So is this the kind of people as the head of the department, let alone, all these other executives that you want to hang around? So you're telling me Jessica Tisch is the police commissioner. She's going to go and say, I'm going to finally terminate every officer and executive or anybody in my police department that hung around that guy in his place. I don't think so. And that's all you need to know. She's a police commissioner in name only.
You gotta like that. You gotta give her credit. She's never been to Con Sofritos though. You gotta give her credit.
We don't know that. We don't know that because
that's true.
You guys would tell me, "Oh, it's Keechant Sewell," and then boom, I found out. Oh, no, she was there. So don't put the cart before the horse.
You think the Shamasai is going to do an event at Jimmy Rodriguez's place?
Why not go to Sobro Gardens? He's the king of the Bronx. Maybe he might give a human trafficking, whatever's going on over there. Maybe want to get involved in that.
Well, let's say this, right? Honestly, you said something earlier, Sal. You said that the rank and file is not going to have respect for her. So just put yourselves in that position. How do you feel if you were still employed by the police department? If we were all working at the police department, how would you feel that she's never walked in your shoes and she's going to actually be the one to sign off on a discipline case, maybe a use of force case or a civilian complaint? She has the authority to sign off or even actually send a memo to change something that you would discipline, that you could actually face termination in the disciplinary matrix. How does it make you feel that she's never walked in your shoes to actually make that decision?
Yeah. So Marlon. I don't think Marlon hears me.
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, yeah.
I had it on mute.
What do you think about that?
He's looking at the comments.
Does it need to be does it need to be a police commissioner? And then answer Eric's question. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, I think I just said it in the comments that we're in a wartime. Crime is rising. You see quality of life in the city degrading, and we need a wartime commissioner. We need somebody with experience. If we were, say, at the tail end of the Bloomberg era, where things had calmed down, I would say maybe you don't need someone with law enforcement experience, because at that point, they could just manage what's there. But times have changed. Quality of life is decreasing. We're hemorrhaging people and businesses. And the more quality of life decreases, the more we're going to hemorrhage both. So we need somebody to come in and put order there. We also need somebody to come in and to help build morale. And you're not going to get that from someone like Jessica. Even though she might be a nice person, I don't know her, but you need somebody to inspire the troops. And I don't think she has that in her. I think someone like John Miller, right? John Miller has he was never a cop, but John Miller has been around the industry so long. He's been in the FBI, he's been in LAPD, he's been with us before. And he's also interviewed bin Laden. Now you need some sort of cojones to go into Afghanistan in the late 90s and go and interview bin Laden. So I think a guy like that would have been perfect, even if he's not the say operational head of the department. John Miller would have been the type of guy who the guys would have get behind,
So
but,
you said the same. You said the same thing that we're saying, right, Marlon? Right, someone that faced danger, right? And that's what you're saying about John Miller, that had that adversity. So I think we're all kind of towing the same line here.
Yeah, absolutely. If we were in like I said, calmer times, then I could say Tish would have been fine. But we have to get the city back to where it was before, in order to take it in that direction. And the other thing is that, like I said, what keeps me up at night is knowing that, like, the politicians in the city haven't woken up. They don't realize that the city has to be competitive with other cities. And part of being competitive means having a better quality of life here that makes people want to come here, raise a family here, grow their businesses here. And again, that comes back to the police department, and the police department having to put down order in the city in order to allow the city to grow again, and to become a pleasant place to live again. So yeah, I agree. We it seems like we're all saying the same similar things, but well, except
But Marlon, how would you feel if your career, you were in a position? Let's, rhetorically speaking, let's go back to 2014. You're Daniel Pantaleo, God forbid. Your job is on the line. How do you feel about Jessica Tisch? That's going to be the one that's going to sign off and potentially actually have the ability to determine if you continue as a New York City police officer or not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when it comes down to the wire, who is she going to listen to? You know, which perspective is she going to have on situations? Is she going to have the academic civilian perspective, or is she going to be able to understand what the boots on the ground goes through on a daily basis? I'm not sure she has the capacity to. I mean, the fact that she's a wealthy heiress alone means that she's a little bit disconnected from what happens on the street, you know. So can she relate to the common cop on the ground? I don't think so, because she certainly can't relate to the civilian, the working man. So yeah.
Sal, what do you think, bro? What do you think? How would you feel about the discipline? I mean,
I know you'd be in trouble, because with Tish, everything is politics. Her family's political. She's political. It would be a political decision. I know my own termination. My argument is it is political. So it would be it's politics on steroids with her. So they would determine what politics are involved in order to fire, which is kind of what the police department has always been, especially that whole criminal association nonsense. Because as you see, if you hashtag I know Jimmy, you're okay. Hey, human trafficking, drugs, whatever. Hey, everybody's partying here. Conso frito. That's fine. But when it comes to other people, I don't like this guy, so I have to destroy this person. And that seems to be something in the disciplinary system that, here, this woman could fix that. Is she going to do that? No, she's going to come out and smile and tell you, oh, everything is great. Let's just look at her in the sanitation department, John. Did you not post this video from the sanitation department as she was in?
Yes, go on New York's Finest Retired and Unfiltered podcast. Watch that video, please. It's titled "This Is Not Satire." Warning: This is not satire. I can't play it on here because there's music, but that thing is hysterical. And we did not make that. That was made by.
That was hilarious, by the way. That was making its rounds, and I was saying to myself, you know what? I can see now it's gonna be. That thing is hilarious.
Sending it to all the sanitation guys. They were like, "Dude, that was from years ago," and we've been sending that around forever. I was like, yeah.
But
right, now it's going to be, please, sir, don't drop that gun. Please drop that gun.
Yes, and that's my point. You already saw a look into Jessica Tisch as a commissioner at sanitation, putting a video like that, which is like, I don't know. I don't know what to say. You're right, because you did title it right. This is not satire. That's how she's going to run the police department, or be, we'll say, a boss in the police department, because I can't say she's a police commissioner. We all know it's really Kaz Daughtry. And I know Eric Adams. This is a political move. Do not like, if a few months from now she's not the police commissioner and there's somebody else like Tariq Shepard being the police commissioner, don't be surprised, because with Eric, everything's on the table, everything. And if you actually, to be honest, I have one person in mind I believe that should be the police commissioner. More than likely, if Curtis Sleever was elected mayor, he would be the police commissioner, and that's Bill Chapman. And you can look at his record, because he was excellent in the police department. That's the kind of guy you need to lead the police department today. Unfortunately, nobody wants to work with Eric Adams, because we know in Eric Adams' world, if you're not corruptible or you're not going to say yes to everything he says, you're not going to be one of his appointees. And I don't think anybody really wants to work for him anyway. Here's the video.
Yeah, it's with the arm in the arms of the angel, and they're all just saying, please, please, to pick up the garbage. I can't play it because they'll rip us down, but it's hysterical. And I couldn't, I was literally crying. I had tears in my eyes last night. But listen, here's my thing with the whole discipline thing. I'm not saying that Jessica Tisch is going to be great. I'm not saying she's going to be horrible. My whole thing with it is you're already being run by civilians. The police department is already run by civilians. Discipline is already getting handed down by civilians. Deputy Commissioner of Trials, Department Advocate Office. We've had numerous civilians in internal affairs. Jessica Tisch is the quintessential deputy commissioner since Bill de Blasio came in. This is the power structure in the New York City Police Department. This is who's been running it. I come in the police department as an analyst, and 3 years later, I'm a deputy commissioner. That's the girl that's in charge of intelligence, Rebecca Weiner. That was Jessica Tisch when they put her in charge of ITB. That was Tanya Meisenholder when they put her in charge of equity. I mean, the police department is ran by civilians. Whether you know it or not, today it's actually more being run by uniforms like Shell, Daughtry, and, well, Daughtry and Tariq are hybrid. They're both, right? They're uniforms when it's good for the pay. They're civilians when it's good to not get an investigation from the Civilian Complaint Review Board. So they're like transgenders, but Shell and Marjorie running the department as uniforms is actually the first time since de Blasio that's happened, because we've had these civilians running the department. The thing I like about Tish, though, is just how she's situated. She's situated close to the power structure. So, people are saying, Sheriff Grady Judd would be great, right? Doesn't come from a big town. I agree. But we need people to, I think my only pick is the person who's not beholden to the mayor, who doesn't care. They're not there for the money. They're going to do the right thing regardless what the mayor says. And they're willing to come in there and be terminated if need be. They're willing to say, well, if you're not going to let me run the police department, then I'm not going to be the police commissioner. I'm not saying that's Jessica Tisch. I'm just saying she is perfectly suited to be that person. She doesn't even take $1 from the city of New York, And then Jay Roman says, will she have the power to make changes, remove people? We shall see. I say no. I say she has the power whether she knows it or not. I'm going to lean with right now that she's not, but let's see. I don't know. What do you think about what Jay says here, Eric?
I think she does have the power to make changes. I think right now Eric Adams put her in a position where, again, I had said it earlier in the episode, and I want to reiterate that because that's my perception of what we may see is that Eric Adams has the ability now to say, hey, she made these changes. She's the police commissioner. I gave her full authority. So because ultimately, it's about what's self-serving for Eric Adams. Eric Adams doesn't care about the police department. He cares about Eric Adams. But she's in a position right now because the money that she has behind her from her family, which Eric Adams is going to need if he makes it and survives, which I think he's going to make it for possible re-election. He needs that money. So she's in a position that she can make the changes that she foresees. Would they be beneficial for the police department? Not necessarily. I do think that they've already subliminally showed all the cards. And the cards are she's going to run this whole technology movement. There's a lot of private contracts we believe are behind the technology, this artificial intelligence. We've seen the failures already, but they're going to continue putting that. That also is a smart move for Eric Adams, right? Because it keeps Kaz Daughtry elevated, right? He said Kaz Daughtry is going to continue operating with the drones. That keeps Kaz Daughtry in that position. That keeps Kaz Daughtry in a position of power, while also not taking the power away from Jessica Tisch. And it already looks like they made this backyard deal. Okay, Jessica, you'll be in charge of technology. You'll be in charge of the administrative operations. But the actual crime fighting is going to be Marjorie, which we know is really Kaz Daughtry, who's going to be running the operations on behalf of Jeffrey Marjorie. Jeffrey Marjorie is really the puppet master when it comes to all these monsters created at the upper echelon of the police department. That's my opinion when it comes to that. So it's extremely brilliant for Eric Adams because Eric Adams can wash his hands and say, hey, she's the police commissioner, gave her full authority. While really the police commissioner of operations is still going to be Kaz Daughtry. But she'll be able to put a muzzle on them. It's going to be a different apparatus and a different perception to the police department. But the fact that she's towing the line means that they're not totally they kind of showing that Adams still has a handle on this and they don't have the full power. The fact that she's saying that the crime numbers are down in comparison to pre-pandemic levels, so she's already in cahoots, or unless she's just completely unaware. And if she's unaware, that's another problem. Jesse James, shout out to you, brother, $9.99 to the podcast, coffee and donuts. As long as Adams is mayor, I don't care who is commissioner. They're an empty suit. Adams is under indictment, yet he's still running the city. Absolutely. He's under indictment, still running the city, and yet Ed Caban had to step down. These are problems. Sal, what do you think about that? What do you think about the fact, even though Ed Caban consorted at Consofritos, he's the number one for when it comes to criminal association. What do you think about that? That he stepped down and Eric Adams is still under indictment with 5 other cases pending as the mayor and continuing as the mayor.
In the real world, this man, if he had any dignity or integrity at all, he would have stepped down a long time ago, but he doesn't. And we know that. That's who he is. I mean, this guy who now he says he's a fan of the fights. Eric Adams is not like sports. He doesn't even know who's on the Mets or the Yankees. He was wearing a hat that had the Met logo and the Yankee logo. Now he's a fan of the sports, and conveniently, he shows up to the fights to go shake hands with President Trump. That shows you he's a political animal. He's reading the room, and he's just trying to survive. That's all this is. If anyone out there really thinks Jessica Tisch is going to be running a police department, I got a bridge to sell you. I'm telling you all of this. To watch what happened before, you saw Eddie Caban with his boy there, Jimmy Rodriguez. Nothing was ever done with that because Eric, see, out of all the police commissioners, Caban is the most, like, the closest one to Eric. The real Eric Adams is the one that was following around, following Eddie Caban around, hanging out at Consofrito. That's who Eric really is. The guy you saw yesterday is a projection. It's the political projection of who he wants you to perceive him to be. He's really the party all the time, every night. Pillage the city for whatever it's worth. Have his friends with those kickback contracts. That's who he is. And the people he had originally around him with Banks and Pearson, that little squad is who Eric Adams is. Jessica Tisch doesn't even belong in the same sentence with these people. But now you really think that she's going to run a police department, even though we've seen what Eric Adams is all about from day one all the way till now. He's either pulling a wool over the people's eyes, or you just don't know who Eric Adams is. Maybe I know him better than anybody else at this point. I'm telling you, it's not going to be good. Jessica Tisch thinks she has any power. Wait till she tries to make a move. Because I'm telling you, Kaz Dodger and Tariq Shepard are there to stay, and they have a lot more say than she does.
So, Sal, based on your assessment, you think even with the money behind her, the wealth with her family, how beneficial and self-serving it is for Eric Adams, you think there's still going to be a power struggle and there's still going to be a power dynamic there? You think Eric Adams ultimately still has the power in this dogfight?
100%. And I can tell you exactly how he would say it. You might be a big donor to me, but I'm the mayor. Doesn't he say that all the time? I'm the mayor, That's him. That's who he is. I'm in charge. I know better than you. I know everything. That's why he fired, what was that? The corporation council left because they were giving him advice that you can't do certain things. And he said, no, I'm the mayor. I know more than you. That's who he is. Talk to anyone who really knows him that's been around him 24/7. That's how they're going to tell you he talks. So Jessica Tisch, police commissioner name only. This is another disaster waiting to happen. Do not be surprised a few months from now, somebody else is named police commissioner. If he survives, that's another thing. If he survives his trial and let's say there's no more indictments, I'm sure there are coming. Let's say there's nothing else coming and he has to go to trial. If he survives everything, there would be another police commissioner. Because right now he's just buttering up to his donors to, get money for his lawyers. He can't even afford his lawyer. That's what this is really all about. It's a political chess move, nothing more.
People, we got 905 people on here. We're talking about the appointment of Jessica Tisch, NYPD Police Commissioner. We're doing a little roundtable with Sal Greco and Named Bethal. Marlon, what do you think about that, bro? Is she going to make any moves? Does she have the power to make any moves? Or you're saying she's coming in to just control the destruction of the NYPD? What are your take on it?
She's going to make limited moves, but like Sal says, Eric's the boss. And eventually, I think some of those moves might run smack dab into what Eric doesn't want, and then she's gone. But something to keep in mind, right? The Tish family is connected to like the drone industry, right? James Tish, he's a director or a CEO. Yeah, he's a director at GE Aerospace, which is an aerospace company that's tied into growing the drone industry. So a lot of the changes she makes are kind of beneficial to her family as well. A lot of it's bringing in the technology and drones and whatnot. So my question is, I think she's going to make limited changes, but do those limited changes actually benefit the city? You know, are we just again managing further decline by giving out crumbs? You know, instead of actually, is she actually going to help the city and like let's raise the quality of life again? I don't think she's going to do that, because she doesn't have that experience, she doesn't have that knowledge, and she's kind of separated from the blue collar, the troubles that people on the street go through, and I just don't think she has it in her. I think again, Adams is going to be the boss, right? And I think, like you like Sal says, Adams is the boss, but Kaz and the Gotham brothers are going to be doing the day-to-day work. And it's not yet. They may be yet the department was being run by civilians for a while, but I don't think the answer is to have uniform that are incompetent running it. I think you need uniform people who are competent and who have the knowledge to go toe to toe with these civilian administrators in the department. And the problem is you don't have that with Kaz and Chell and Shepard. And the answer isn't to have civilians who are one side or like one side on the other side as well. You know, we need to find, and this department is big enough where you can't tell me we don't have the people. We need to find a competent personnel who has the knowledge to go toe to toe with these civilians. And when these civilians try to dictate policy, they can tell them no. You know, it's like this, and who can match them toe to toe in terms of academic policy. And until you have that, this department is going to continue being a rudderless ship.
So Sal gave his pick, who he would pick, right? He said, Chapman, Wilbur Chapman. Eric, who would you pick? Who would you pick if you were Adams?
As the police commissioner, who would I pick?
Yeah. You could pick yourself.
I would pick you and me. I would pick you and me or Sal right now, honestly. It would be one of us right now, or Marlon. Honestly, right now, one of us can actually relate to the men and women with their boots on the ground. We actually understand that the human element is the most important key. I think that we all have a great understanding of law enforcement. We also have life experience out there in addition to that, but we understand people, and we all have very similar backgrounds. We all grew up poor. We grew up rough and tumble. And we all grew up in New York City, and we understand it. And really, we have a love for this city. All right, so we understand that animal. So there wouldn't be much of a learning curve. And right now, we have the trust and credibility of the rank and file. So I do think that, hey, maybe Jessica Tisch will give us a call. Maybe John, maybe a phone will ring. Sal, same thing. Marlon, maybe my phone will ring. Maybe they'll look to put us on board, because that would be a smart move for them. But again, yeah, I would say it would be one of us. Absolutely. Why not? Or maybe one of our friends and listeners here, some of the retired guys have some great input, really have some great knowledge, and understand the way policing should be, the way it was, and utilize that into the dynamics and evolving where we're at right now. I just want to give a shout out to some donors here to the podcast. We got coffee and donuts. Marlon, Sal, I'd love to pour you a cup of coffee from some of our friends and listeners over here. JF.999 to the podcast. A trash commish not having experience as a garbage man is acceptable. Trash doesn't lunge at you with a knife on a subway platform. Isn't that true, huh? Experience matters. I must be honest, right? Absolutely experience. And that's what I'm talking about. Facing that
In my
adversity.
humble opinion, guy.
What's that?
In my humble opinion, I am HO.
Oh, listen, dude, it went up so quick. And who's next? Snake Plissken. $4.99 to the podcast. The show today, Off the Hook. Thank you so much. I think it's cool that we have this roundtable, especially input from our friends and listeners. Really, give us your input. Give us your opinions. Your opinions matter. First Amendment speech is honored in this space. And trolls, we honor them too. You got Juju here right now. He says, Marlon, let it go, brother. He gets another career. Well, listen, Marlon, don't worry. We'll be the last ones laughing when Juju is not headed to 233 Broadway, but actually to 500 Pearl Street. So we'll be laughing in the end.
It's Thursday, Juju. Shouldn't you be at CompStat?
He is. What makes you think he's not? What makes you think he's not like this? Right?
But wait, hold on. Juju correctly stated that I am wearing an Inter Milan jersey. If he is an Inter Milan fan, I don't know. I have an affinity for fellow Inter Milan fans, so he did recognize that he knows who the shirt is. I didn't think anybody would pick that up.
Oh, now I know. But now listen. I'm a caveman when it comes to social media. I wasn't on social media at all my entire career. Now I have to go home and study these acronyms: IMO, IMHO. So I got some homework to do. Well, let me ask you this, John. Before you just say, I just want to say, do you think Jessica Tisch watches the podcast?
Do I think she does? No, but I think she's going to. So, I think she, welcome, Jessica.
She can donate a lot of coffee and donuts.
Yeah, she can donate. So, but Marlon, who do you think, bro? Like, who would you pick? If you had to pick, who would you pick?
Oh, I'd go with John Miller. So for those who don't know, while I was there, John Miller was the Deputy Commissioner of Intel. And he's always seemed very approachable. When I got my shield, I went up to the office and John was just walking around and he was like, "Oh, you want to take a picture?" And he started talking to me about the job and about Intel, and he was always very approachable. If you walked around 1PP, you'd always see John sitting outside smoking a stogie. But also John had even though he never had that boots on the ground experience, he knew enough about policing, and he was a buff. John I've heard that he would show up in crime scenes, and see if he could help out. So I think John would have been the right person to kind of build morale, while also provide kind of like a someone that could kind of bridge the gap between the civilian academics on the job and the boots on the ground. And so I think he would have made a good PC. In fact, I don't understand why the job kind of let him go. I think that was a major loss for us. And in terms of Intel, I think it was a major considering his history with the intelligence community and what he's done, I think that was a huge loss in terms of experience for the Intel Bureau.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that though, Marlon, because I agree with you. I think that they lost Miller. I don't think he would come back because I think he's making a lot more money now, and I think his life's a lot easier than it would be to be the New York City Police Commissioner, and he's older at this point. But again, we just went into that. Should that a cop can't if you didn't come from the police department, you can't run the police department. John Miller was a reporter. I agree with you. He interviewed Ben Laden. He used to chase John Gotti around the streets in New York when the mob was controlling things. So like I agree with you, your assessment of John Miller, but I think he's a perfect example of how somebody could come from the outside and lead, because he did do a great job. I think everyone that he did a great job when he was the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information, and he did a great job when he was the Deputy Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterrorism. He did a great job. Justin Hardington brings it up here. John Miller showed up to many heavy jobs in Harlem as they were active by himself to help us out. A friend of mine actually just said this, also a reporter, now owns his own media company, but he just said this. I'll leave him anonymous. He said, "No member of the Tish family is going to subordinate themselves to Eric Adams. She is going to benefit one way or another, either via power or money. She comes from a much higher tier of power and influence." And and that's what I'm saying, and that's how I look at this as well. I don't believe that Eric Adams is going to be the ultimate de facto anymore. I think he believes he's going to be. I think he made a real interesting move on the chessboard, and I think it might backfire in his face. So I'm interested to see what happens. I 100%. I respect John Miller. I'll tell you, since doing this whole thing, I have a very great respect for investigative reporters now going forward, because I think when I read articles from the city, particularly things that are coming out about these corruption investigations, these people are analyzing the police department, and they're analyzing the politics of New York City, and they're analyzing all of the things that come in. I believe that they have a much larger view of the police department than your average cop, than your average boss, than your average executive. I believe they see things a lot clearer because they're looking from the outside. And I'm telling you, there's a few reporters out there that, I've been watching them. I've been reading their work. I've been seeing what they're doing. And I'm like, wow, these people would be unbelievable cops. Unbelievable.
I just want to say, I think we touched on some fantastic points here. Marlon, and John, and I like John Miller. I think that he does fit that component that you spoke about, Marlon, and as far as being battle tested, right? And I like to use that word now because Adams used it at his press conference, saying that Jessica Tisch is battle tested. I find that actually laughable. I don't think that she's battle tested. I think she was compartmentalized. I think she was innovative, but I don't think she's battle tested. But I think John Miller is battle tested. He wasn't a cop, but he has faced adversity. So I think that what you said about earlier, Marlon, which would be necessary, I think John Miller could actually fit that part, and that's actually being able to stand up and actually be that voice with the academics out there, right? Be not that uniform personnel that can't compete and can't bark with these academics. I think that John Miller could do a great job when it comes to city council at these hearings. He could do a great job when it comes to civilian complaint review board and actually compete with these academics. And also, we know by what you guys are saying, I see it myself, John Miller showing up to these jobs and wanting to assist. And Ron Layson said it. He was able to lead, but he also knew when to get out of the way. So he was able to be, in the dirt with the cops out with the boots on the ground, and especially, you're right, John, as an investigative reporter. I mean, I seen when I was in Iraq, some of these reporters running around, they were in thick of it with us, trying to document what's going on in the war. So these guys do some amazing work. Would it work with the dynamic with the upper echelon of police department right now? No, which is a good thing. He would have to move them and clean house. And I think he would be willing to clean house. But again, Jessica Tisch, and you're right. That's the part I have to push back with you guys. I don't think that Eric Adams is going to be in a position of power. I believe he would like to be, but I mean, I think the family here this is money that Eric Adams is not even familiar with. We're talking about a family, James Tisch and his wife, which I think is amazing, by the way. Support. They donated $40 million to Mount Sinai for the Cancer Institute there, which is now called the Tish. I don't know when they did it, but the Tish Cancer Institute. They donated $40 million. So this is money that Eric Adams is not even familiar. I don't think that Eric Adams can compete with them when it comes to that power dynamic. I think that this is going to be a power struggle, and I'm going to agree with John at this point and say that this may backfire on him because Eric Adams, like Sal Greco said, wants to be and needs to be in a position of power.
If I may, I think one of the problems with the job is that the uniform, they don't have enough confidence in uniform personnel. So if they get two different views, the higher ups tend to lean more towards what the civilian says, what the civilian analysts or academics say. And that's a problem for the job. And I think that's one of the problems that hurt us during COVID, because they lean more towards listening to these guys who are all civilians. And the job needs to get to a place where either you elevate the uniform personnel that have the intelligence to go toe to toe with these academics, or you have to, I don't know, find some way to put these academics, let them kind of put them in their place, so to speak, you know. But the problem that the job has is that it needs to put the same amount of weight into listening to what the uniform guys have to say as they do with these civilians on the job. So that's one of the reasons why, again, I said that John Miller would have been my pick. So I just had to say that.
You know, I also think, and John, I was curious to know what you think about this, and maybe we could get everyone's thoughts. I think that this is a very precarious position for Jessica Tisch also. Right now, she's considered a pioneer and very innovative when it comes to the police department with the Information Technology Bureau as the commissioner there at the police department. She started in 2008 with the police department, going into this technological era. Now we're moving to artificial intelligence. So in this position right now, she's known as high society, right? She's known as extremely intelligent when it comes to technology. So being part of this administration, if she does not overcome with power, with the money, with her family, this could potentially actually tarnish her career. Being part of this administration, what do you think? Do you think that this could tarnish it, or do you think this will elevate her career? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think this already elevated her career. I think this is I just think it's a bad move considering the position that Eric Adams in. She, like I said, I don't think anyone that comes in is going to say anything, but I could be wrong about that too, because I think Dave Zavella put it out yesterday on Twitter. The only person that said something about Jessica Tisch's appointment is Sal Greco's good friend Curtis Lewa. He's the only person that's running for mayor that came out and made a statement about Jessica Tisch. I don't believe he supported the appointment. I don't know exactly what he said, and Sal, maybe you could elaborate on that next. And but he's the only person that said anything. There's 5 other candidates. They did this. They didn't make a statement. You're running for mayor. You don't make a statement that the mayor of New York City just made this 4th pick for the NYPD Police Commissioner, and you're not even going to weigh in on it. That shows me that those are not credible candidates. So what did Curtis say, and what do you think about that? That 5 candidates didn't say a word about this.
Yeah, I believe Curtis is not for this because, again, it shows that the rank and file, the rank and file here, I'm telling you that they don't like this move. There's a lot of, it's basically like plucking somebody who's been in an administrative job their whole life and saying, here, you be the police commissioner. And first of all, she was in the sanitation department for the last couple of years. So she hasn't even been in the police department. She's in the administration, but this is like a slap in the face to the men and women in the police department. And on the other flip side of that, I know you saw that picture that I found of Tanya Kinsella, who's probably right now steaming and livid, as I've heard that she isn't the police commissioner because she's been angling for that job for a while, even while, Eddie Caban was around. So look at the look that she gave her as she kept looking over yesterday. These two might have to end up in a WWE ring or something,
Crazy. Did you guys get a chance to read this article? I didn't read it yet, but it says new NYPD boss Jessica Tisch is willing to shake up the status quo, put substance over palace intrigue. I don't know. I've been, sometimes I'm a fan of the Post. Most of the time I'm not. I don't know if I buy everything that comes out from the Post, but they're making the assertion that she's going to make changes. That's what open a line is. New police commissioner Jessica Tisch isn't afraid to shake things up. Tish said during a post interview, she stressed that she's about substance, not palace intrigue, and willing to upend the status quo to fulfill the mission of keeping New Yorkers safe if needed. I could care less about the palace intrigue and more about the substance of the work, Tish 43 when asked about the turmoil in the department, including corruption investigation by the feds. I'm a substantive person, she says. The departing, whatever. We don't have to get into all that. Eric, do you think she's going to make changes?
That's an immediate.
And what changes should she make?
That's an immediate power play, right? It's an immediate power play to see how Eric Adams responds to that. I think that shows exactly what we'll be talking about here. I think that there's going to be no power struggle. I think that Eric Adams is going to be hands off. I think that Jessica Tisch does have the magic wand. I think that she has the power right now. She's got the family behind her with the money. We're talking about $40 million they donated for a cancer institute, which I think is amazing, by the way. But $40 million, that's the kind of money Eric Adams is going to need to go into this next campaign for re-election. Eric Adams is not going to jump that fence right now. I think Eric Adams is going to wash his hands and say, hey, she's the police commissioner. I gave her full authority. I think she is going to make changes. And the change that she's going to make is that Kaz Daughtry will still be elevated. He already alluded to it. He'll be part of the technology. I think at some point they might even bring him back his uniform. I don't know. But the fact is Kaz Daughtry is going to be in the upper echelon. I think that Tariq Shepard and John Schell are going to be pushed to the side. I think you're going to see Kaz Daughtry is going to be the number one along her, which he's always been. But I do think she's going to make some changes. I think she's going to start moving some of these chiefs around. I do think that. So it may be good for morale at the short term because you're going to see some changes. But ultimately, I do think that she's going to be in power right now. I think that it's a smart move by Eric Adams. I don't think he's going to get involved in that power struggle because it's too risky for his own self-serving benefit. And I think he's willing to actually completely turn himself over. We've seen it already, right? We've seen his interaction with Trump. We've seen already a different Eric Adams, and we're going to see a different Eric Adams with Jessica Tisch as the police commissioner. I do expect changes, and I expect changes that are going to be immediate.
That's because he's appealing to his donor class with this move, but it doesn't change who he really is. He's still the guy that likes to party all the time. So he's being is a chameleon and a charlatan, which we already know he is. I am telling you, I believe she will make minimal moves, but like I'll give you an example. And you saw me put that, I mentioned on my own show. Sergeant Dennis Rodriguez, a Caban loyalist, friend of, once again, Jimmy Rodriguez, should be fired just for that, and has the the Dominican Society. He's the head of that, and they have their own office at One Police Plaza, which is a huge conflict. And I don't know if anybody knows that, but go check it out. The Dominican Society has their office in One Police Plaza, the only society or association that has an office in One Police Plaza. That guy who made that top 400 list, all administrative overtime in the police commissioner office. We don't know what he does exactly. There's cops out there that get berated for taking 2 hours of overtime to make an arrest. Nobody's challenging this guy. Is she going to terminate this guy or not?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. So, guys, we got 932 people on here. If you could do us a favor, if you could like it, share out the space. We're trying to get to all your comments and questions. I'll try to get as many up on the screen as I can. Marlon, what do you think? What do you think about the Post article? Do you agree that she's going to make changes, or is she just going to do some little gaslighting and we're not going to see anything? What do you think?
No, she'll make changes, all right, but it's stuff that I think a lot of it's going to be behind the scenes, and a lot of it relates to, again, the robots, the drones, all that sort of technocratic policies. Yeah. I think none of those changes are going to actually benefit the cops on the street. I think they're going to benefit 1PP in terms of increasing their ability to micromanage the precincts. I said this yesterday that I could see a future where you don't even need a desk officer. It's going to be operations, everything is going to be determined from operations, and they're going to be able to monitor every cop on the street, what they're doing at every single moment. But that doesn't help the level of service that the public is getting, and that doesn't help the morale in the precinct. That just makes it technocratic policies just make it better. Just centralize power at the top and make it easy for the people at the top to manage the peons on the street. So I think her changes, she's going to make changes, but it's not going to. It may not be immediately obvious to us, but because they're going to be behind the scenes and a lot of the infrastructure in the department. But I don't think those changes are going to benefit cops at all.
I think these are fantastic points, and I do think there's going to be immediate changes. And what you're saying is that she's not going to make change when it comes to operational side. And I think that's a great point to reflect on, because Eric Adams kind of said it at the press conference that Chief Madry will run the criminal the operations for crime fighting, and she'll work at the administration part. And he really spoke about technology, so she could be compartmentalized. I think that I do think she'll be immediate changes. Ron Lason says, I disagree, Eric. We saw how Shepard was removed, rightfully so, after the incident of the marathon, and was put back before in the tour. They are untouchable. Yeah, they're untouchable, but with Jessica Tisch, I do think the dynamic changes. I'll push back on you that I think that she has a lot more power. She's already flexing with this article, with that title. I think she's already flexing, saying, that pretty much to test the waters. I do think she has a lot more power than the other police commissioners because of the money aspect, and Eric really needs that. So I think Eric could easily say, hey, hands off, she's in charge, whatever change she wants to make. I don't think that he's willing to give up that money for Tariq Shepard. I don't think he's that loyal to Tariq Shepard. I don't think so. I don't think Eric's that loyal to anybody. I think he's loyal to himself. I could be wrong, but that's my assessment on it. And my brother, I appreciate the input.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with you, Eric. Listen, I think you guys got any final thoughts? I got any final thoughts on Jessica Tisch? We've been doing 2 hours on this. I just want one more topic before we get off of Jessica Tisch. Rob Lukshevitz says the real winner of the appointment is the podcast. To keep you guys going, getting busy. Yeah, I don't think it matters who it is. I think the real, as long as Eric Adams is up there, like I said, he's the ringmaster. He's selling tickets, man. The dude is a character. But so any final thoughts before we switch topics on Jessica Tisch?
Like I said, I we'll wait and see what she does. I mean, she starts on Monday. We hope that a few days later she's not getting raided by the feds, just like the last 2 police commissioners did. So we don't know what's to entail in the future. I will stand by. I think she makes tiny moves. Nothing that is dramatic, nothing is big, because Tariq Shepard, Kaz Daughtry, John Shell, Madry, they're all untouchable. They'll be there no matter what, because as long as your name doesn't come up in the federal probes, you're gonna stay there. They're Eric's boys. So she's gonna make some moves, not the moves you expect. It'll stay as status quo. They'll all be hailing Kaz Daughtry as the king of the NYPD. And it'll just be business as usual. It's all politics. That's all it is.
Marlon, what do you think, brother? Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Yeah, she's going to make moves, but you're not going to notice them immediately. The moves she's brought in there, like I said, because the city has less, I think, in my opinion, I know I agree with Sal that there's a lot of politics involved in this too, because her family is very prominent in New York City, but I think she's also being brought in to manage to kind of manage the fact that the department is expecting more with less people, and that involves changing a lot of the infrastructure behind the scenes. And unfortunately, I don't see anybody in the department who's saying that there has to be a human first approach. So a lot of these changes with AI and all that, I don't think they'll actually help with the human component of policing. I think they help with micromanagement and centralizing the control at the top. So that's what I think.
I do expect artificial intelligence to really seep into the police department. John and I have been talking about artificial intelligence for over a year now. I remember, just talking to John offline before we started podcasting daily live, we would pretty much have conversations that were pretty much podcasts. Like, hey, why don't we just turn this into a podcast? It'll be a 3-hour conversation, speaking about what's news and doing our research. And we spoke about artificial intelligence, and that really became the wave. And I think with her in this position right now, I think that we'll start to see reports move into artificial intelligence. I'm sure the body cameras viewing it will seep into artificial intelligence, which we heard before. I think we'll see a lot of that. We might even see the 911 system being integrated with artificial intelligence. So that's the stuff behind closed doors. But I think when it comes to stuff that we might see operational, I do think she'll make some changes to show that she has power when it comes to the upper echelon. We might see some changes. We might see some movement with some chiefs, some musical chairs. I'm not necessarily saying she'll give them the boot, but we might just see some musical chairs so she could show that she has the power. I think that, like, again, that title that we just read before, I think that is a flex. I think that's a power play to see where this goes. I think that she has a complete different hat than she had before. She's went through the growing pains. She has really understanding of the civil lining of the police department. She was in a position as a commissioner. So she already understands how to work with unions. She understands the civil linings of the police department. I think she already has the unions in her pocket already. I mean, some of the stuff that we heard Hendry say just shows they're in bed with the enemy. Again, I think that she's in a position of power. I think that Eric Adams right now is looking for numero uno, and that's Eric himself. I think he'll bury anybody to protect his own. And that's what I see here. I don't think there's any power struggle. I think her and her family by far have far more power than Eric Adams. And these are intelligent people also. I don't think you can compete with them. So that's my take on that.
Oh, one quick thing, John. I just have one thing. Does a chief outside of 1PP really matter anymore, to be honest with you?
No.
I mean, everything is coming from 1PP. I mean, how much autonomy does a borough chief have anymore, or any other chief outside 1PP? So.
No, yeah. I lied. Last question for all you. I lied before we get off a test. Last question for you. And this coming in from a friend. What's your take on power? Does Marjorie, Kaz, Shepard, and Shell, do they remain with the same power that they had since day one? I say I don't think so, but it remains to be seen. What do you guys think? Sal, what do you think? Does Shell, Shepard, Daughtry, all of them, do they have the same power? Is it business as usual? Same shit that we've seen the last 3 police commissions.
They will still remain in power. They'll have the final say in whatever it is whatever they're doing. It's still going to continue, barring they are involved in some kind of federal investigation. That's the only way they're going to not be in power, is if the feds came in and said, well, we have you on this, we took your phones, blah, blah. Other than that, there is no reason to. They are Eric's boys. Eric, as you know, is loyal to his boys till the very end. The only reason Banks and Pearson are not there is because they are tied up in a federal investigation. Same thing with Ingrid Lewis Martin. That's the only reason you don't see them with Eric. Any other reason, he would have kept the status quo. So they will continue to have the power that they have. You're going to see John Shell and Kaz Daughtry on Dr. Phil. There's nothing stopping that other than if they are to be involved in a federal investigation.
So I think it's a fantastic question, because we've been talking about power struggle here. We've been talking about the power dynamic. I think that the power dynamic is going to change if they try to butt heads with Jessica Tisch. I think if they stay in their own space, I think they'll continue to have the power that they have operationally. But I think if they start to butt heads with Jessica Tisch, as they did with Tom Donilon, I think they're going to lose that battle. I think she will quickly stomp them like the bums that they are. I think she'll squash them like a bum, because she has the family and the power and the money behind her to do it. That's why. And it's powerful. And John, you said it earlier in this episode, someone that doesn't need money is dangerous. She's dangerous. She's dangerous not to me and you. She's dangerous to them. She's dangerous to John Shell, Kaz Daughtry, Jeffrey Madry, Tariq Shepard. So I think that Eric Adams kind of alluded to it. I think he showed his card. I think that Kaz Daughtry is going to continue in power for the operations, as Madry is the puppet master. I think Tariq Shepard is going to take a step to the side. I think things are going to cool down with him and John Shell. I think that if they play that out in that manner, so if you guys are watching this, Juju, if you're watching this, that's how you'll survive. That's how you'll swim. But I'm telling you right now, just as we put the memes out there with Titanic, She's not going to be Jack. She's going to be on that board. She'll be the one to survive. She's the one with the power. John Shell will be the one. He'll be Jack when it comes to this. So will Tariq Shepard.
Well, hold on. Eric, one thing though. You did say one thing. You did say one thing I want to point out. You just mentioned something about, Tariq Shepard will be put in place, blah, blah, blah. As of right now, Tariq Shepard not only has a job, Tom Donlin is getting fired from that whole incident. The incident that occurred, Shepard has his job. Donlin lost his job. So, again, who has more power?
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why I said with that dynamic, sure. I think Tom Donlin was not in that position at all. I think they treated him like a complete dumpski. And we were all bamboozled to believe he was got a clean house. But with Jessica Tisch, I think the power dynamic, the struggle change is completely different. I think that she'll squash them like the bums that they are. They have a lot of power behind them. There's a lot of money. That family can either say, you know what, Eric, you mess with my daughter, you mess with my wallet. So I that's the way I see it going. Honestly, I think she holds the power. I do. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my perception right now.
I totally agree with you. I don't see. Eric Adams is not in charge of the Tisch family. I don't see it. I think he just made. I just think he made a chess move to try to hang out. But there's a lot of he made a move in checkers, but he wasn't playing chess when he did that. Like, that's how I see it. He made a checker move, not realizing he's on a chessboard. And I personally, like I said, I don't know her. I know that she was a decent manager. I know she made mistakes, but she actually did improve a lot of the stuff on the job, and she did improve ITB greatly. So I don't know that. I don't know her character. I don't know her spine level. I don't know how she stands up to adversity. I don't know any of that. But I know that suited power-wise, she holds the power 100%, whether she realizes it or not. I think so. Marlon, what do you think about that? Is it still the same? Is it still the same Madry and his monster? Do they still hold the same the same power? Or are they going to be running around like they have for the last 3 years?
Well, I think they stay the same because they're basically the mouthpiece of Eric Adams. Kaz may as well be Eric Adams Jr.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is going to come up when the technology isn't working, because a lot of this technology is immature, and if they think overnight they can replace boots on the ground with technology, there's going to come a point where the frustration of Adams' frustration and the public's frustration with seeing the quality of life continuing to degrade is going to bump head to head with the technology, and that's going to be interesting to see what happens. So yeah. I think at that point she's going to leave, but Adams he won't be able to leverage, say, the Tisch family for his second campaign, because at that point he's done anyway. So, but I think that it's what's that metaphor about a train and basically we have two trains that are going to collide. You have the situation with the finances of the city, quality of life, and immature technology, and they're gonna come crashing together at some point, because you cannot replace humans with technology that's immature right now, and you can't do it overnight, which is what.
Well, I think you're right about that. I think that's that's going to be her hurdle, is trying to innovate her technology ideas into actual policing with boots on the ground, which I think is where Bratton comes into play, right? I think Bratton is going to be her confidant and hopefully actually give her the right advice and not actually pander complete to Eric Adams. I think that's where she might succeed operationally, is having Bratton in her ear. But again, I think if they play this out and they all play nice in the sandbox, I think that Kaz Daughtry will still be in a great position to reach Shep and John Shell. But I think if they try to butt heads, that's where they find the problem. I don't see her toppling over. I think the Shamram Society would immediately intervene and say, "You got to put a wrap on this. You know who's in charge." And money talks.
Yeah. So let's just wrap up Tish now. Let's move on to the next topic. Before we do, just take a look at the screen. New York City Campaign Finance Board, Eric L. Adams. 2, let's search candidate contributions. Eric L. Adams from anyone with the last name Tish. Recipient, here we go. We show 25 entries, total 14 records returned for 14,000. Alan Tish, 2,000 to Eric Adams, 2021. Alan Tish, 2,000 to Eric Adams, 2021. Benjamin Tish, 2,000 to Eric Adams, 2021. James Tish, 2,000 to Eric Adams, 2021. Jonathan Tish, 2,000 to Eric Adams, 2021. Lori Tish, 1,000 to Eric Adams. Lori Tish, 2,000. Lori Tish, 1,000. Lizzie Tish, 2,000. All to Eric Adams, 21. Merrill Tish, $2,000. Merrill Tish, $2,100. Stephen Tish, $2,000. Stephen Tish, $2,000. Joy, that's not Tishera. Okay, that's a different one. That's Tishler. But you see right there. So 13 entries. You see they're making, I believe those are the max donations for an individual. Not 100% sure. But those are donations to Eric Adams' 2021 mayoral campaign from the people with the last name Tish. If that doesn't tell you something, it should. So there's that. But so what happens? We've had a police officer shot by a two-time robber, right? Who was actually killed at the scene of that robbery. NYPD police officer, an innocent bystander, was shot. Thankfully, the officer's okay. The officer's name is Richard Wong, a 7-year veteran of the 103rd Precinct. He was shot in the thigh, very dangerous place. You have a lot of vital arteries in your leg, easily bleed out and die. Wong returned fire and hit Worthy once in the face. Worthy was pronounced dead at Jamaica Hospital, according to sources. So while this is going on, crime scene's active, rushing an NYPD police officer to the hospital to make sure they live, rushing the suspect to the hospital to try to make them live, rushing an innocent civilian who was struck to try to make them live. John Schell and Kaz Daughtry were allegedly running around with Dr. Phil. They allegedly showed up at the scene, the crime scene, and then the hospital scene, followed by boom mics and camera crew. I think we all got numerous phone calls about it, how disgusting it was, how insulted they were. And then just before we even go further on that, like what are your thoughts on that? That like they're out there with Dr. Phil, you have a cop shot. Does the show still go on? Does the show still go on, Eric?
Well, it goes back to everything we've been saying. It's self-serving. These are egos over everything. And ultimately, they want the rank and file to believe they care about them, right? That's what they're saying when they have these pissy matches on social media and all this stuff. It really comes down to it's about them. And you can't hide it for so long, right? Zebras don't change their stripes. And it's only so long that you could actually pretend to be something else. And their true colors have come out. That's who John Schell is. John Schell cares about John Schell. Kaz Daughtry cares about Kaz Daughtry at the top. They care about the egos. This whole media tour, this whole stage photo ops, it's about them. It's not about the men and women with their boots on the ground. That's the reality. That was the real John Schell. That was the real John Schell asking for an escort while he was responding, while filming with Dr. Phil. It's about John Schell. It wasn't about the cop on the ground. It wasn't about the potential lives that could be lost for the rank and file. It's about John Schell. We know it. He's the one that's been advocating, pushing for this crime-fighting resource, vehicle pursuits, and yet he's not stood up for one cop that was involved in a vehicle pursuit that led to the demise of an innocent bystander, or led to a cop and a Sergeant Duran, who's fighting for his freedom. He hasn't stood up once to fight for them because John Schell cares about John Schell, and that's it.
So, what do you think? Does the show still go on? You're out there, you're filming with Dr. Phil, you're the chief of patrol, you're the deputy commissioner of operations, you just get a cop shot at a crime scene. What's your priority there? Is it to ensure public safety? Is it to ensure the cop's okay? Or is it to ensure that Dr. Phil and his camera crew get good camera shots?
Number one is to ensure his own cop is safe. Then it's the public safety because of what happened there. The last thing I'm thinking about is the camera crew. But I can tell you this. I know John Schell. I worked for John Schell. He was a captain. This is who he is. He's very much a guy who cares about his own image, himself. He gaslights you. He wants you to think a certain way. And then if something goes wrong, he'll be the first to pull away and say, I didn't tell you to do that. What does your training tell you to do? So that's the guy he is. This doesn't surprise me. It's disgusting. But again, we were just talking about somebody who would be the police commissioner. Are they going to address this? As the police commissioner, you think you should or you would, but these guys do whatever they want. I'm just telling you that the real boss here, the real guys running the police department is Kaz Daughtry, John Schell, Tariq Shepard, and Jeffrey Mandry. So nothing's going to come out of this other than you hear at the very end of this, another police officer basically throws in their face that, all the stuff he's screaming about, he could have just called directly and had his little escort that he wanted.
What do you think, Marlon? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I can't believe we've gotten to the point where you have a cop getting shot and it's priority for the chief of patrol to bring in to continue his media interview. It just speaks of how far this department has gotten. There just doesn't seem to be any sort of discipline or order, and where are the unions to tell him like that you're crossing the line with this, that you shouldn't, is there nobody to speak up and say, hey, what are you doing, guy? As soon as the cop gets shot, that should have been it for it. Somebody should have taken Dr. Phil home, take his crew home, and chief of patrol should show up at the scene. That this just speaks of how much they love the camera and how much they love being a media figure. I think right now, I've said it before that, and you guys have too, that it's only a matter of time before Chell has his own podcast or whatever, because he's clearly working on being a media figure himself, and he clearly loves that spotlight.
Marlon, sorry, John, but I just want to say spot on, because at some point John Schell should say, okay, listen, cut the cameras, or if you want to film, do what you got to do. I got to go. This is really important. And put the cop first. There's no doubt about it. John, sorry, brother. I just wanted to say that.
No, I just wanted to say, and for Gold Shields, the only reason that you guys are getting views now and not the 38 that you had is because I sent out in a text thread the interview of Tanya Kinsella and John Schell, or else nobody would even know that was there. So, just want to let you guys know that. So that's why all of you that have just recently witnessed that was one text that I sent out. So you're welcome, Shell. So now you don't have 38 views anymore. Let's get into this. So he's out there running around, allegedly running around with Dr. Phil. And somebody comes out and basically is like, yeah, well, you should hear the radio. So we're going to play the radio transmission. It's 3 minutes. It's 23 seconds. There's pauses. There's silence during it. So it's going to take a little bit to get through. But what it appears to be is that while at the height of this scenario, while an MOS is shot, the chief of patrol, who is allegedly running around with Dr. Phil, filming an episode, being tailed by camera crews, is concerned. His concern is getting an escort for himself to travel to the crime scene. I don't know. John Schell and a lot of other people like to make the assertion that I was never a cop, or Eric was never a cop, or Sal, and now I'm sure they'll come after Marlon as well too. So they'll make that assertion. But I don't ever remember a time that I asked for an escort as a police officer responding to a scene. Normally, police officers, cops who have a car with lights and sirens have no problem traveling through the city to get where they need to get. I've never heard this before in my life. So I don't know. Maybe John Schell really wasn't the cop that everyone thought he was. Maybe he just played last man standing at the bar enough, and he just hung on to Jeffrey Mandry's coattails long enough that it got him to where he needed to be. Because I want you to listen to this, and then I want to get your thoughts after this, because I don't know. When I heard this, I was absolutely, utterly disgusted by this. I couldn't believe what I was listening to. I I don't know. I don't know, man. It doesn't even sound like he cares about what's going on. It sounds more like, I gotta show everybody how quick I could get an escort and get moved around the city. It shows more of an egotistical moment. We have played stuff in the past with him and Daughtry on 911 calls, coming over the radio, putting members of service in bad scenarios, risking their lives, calling shots when they're not even on the scene. Overriding the duty captain on the scene. So let's play this, listen to it, and then Eric, let's get your thoughts, and we'll go around. You know.
Chief of Patrol.
Chief of Patrol.
Do you have any highway units on the FDR northbound that can help me get an escort to 161 in Jamaica?
10-4, we got highway 3 units in round regard.
There's going to be some pauses, all right?
Yeah, for our members right now, our friends who listen to podcast, if you listen on audio, it's just a picture right now of Dr. Phil and Fat Triple Neck John Shell.
I lied.
U3.
Rescue Service U3.
Do we have clarification? Is a perp in custody and/or are there any outstanding? Issue Adam 9.
Adam 9, go ahead.
Okay, someone outstanding. Perp is DOA this time. Come on to the hospital. U3 red. U5 red. Thanks.
10-4.
SOD 2 Central. Shall we go on that scene?
10-4.
How ready for it, the scene?
10-4.
That's how they come in.
Came over in a 103, 161 in Jamaica. Rescue Service Adam 9.
Get a vibe shot, U5
To the MLS was conscious this time. To the MLS was conscious at this time.
Yeah, he was conscious. Shot the right leg.
10-4, stand right.
Yeah, highway.
U3, U5 red.
Chief of Patrol, is highway on the air?
Do I have any highway units on the air?
That's Central.
Do we have any highway units on the air?
Put that over there. I have to put over highway.
I mean, is that not disgusting or what is? Eric, what do you think about that?
It's disgusting. The bottom line is this fat triple neck loser bum is out there caring more about himself than the cop that is actually at the scene. You shouldn't be giving any direction to anybody at that point. Let highway respond there on their own. Why they have to wait and hold up for you? Why do you have to keep requesting for an escort for you? It's because of everything that we always say. And Marlon, you actually put the comment here. Egos over everything. That's the bottom line, because he was also showing off to Dr. Phil, hey, while we have a cop shot here, we have a gun battle involving a perpetrator, one of our police officers. They're going to serve me first. That's what this comes down to. He might not even know it, but in his subconscious, they're going to serve me first. I'm going to get the escort. You know what? Put your lights and sirens. Do what you got to do to get there. Don't start giving the direction to highway so that they can stop what they're doing for you. You should not come first. The police officer should come first. That gun battle should come first. And that's what good leaders do. If anything, offer on the radio, how can we provide assistance? What resources do you need? Not putting yourself first. That's it. Listen, we know what we're dealing with. That's the reality. The true colors came out just now.
Sal, what do you think, bro? What do you think about that?
Does first question is this Dr. Phil, this whole thing, does this benefit the New York City taxpayer in any way? Having him around, filming him, that's your first question. The second one is, I never heard the chief of patrol come over once and say, is my MOS okay? Yeah, I heard him say he was shot in the leg, and then he came back over to say, is highway on the air. That's his only concern, is to have his escort so that he can, be on camera saying how, oh, look at this. Look what's going on. You caught this on camera. You're lucky. Look, I know this guy, this triple necked. I mean, this guy comes on. I see him. We got a fake account on X, Jean Louise. John, I know you. You want a job at Newsmax. My friends know Chris Ruddy better than you or anyone you know. I could get you that job. Just say the word, because you're definitely not a chief of patrol. You're an embarrassment. And when it comes to a shooting, you know all too well, because you already killed somebody and you kept your job. And you're in a sexual misconduct case with Madry and Kaz, your two pals. You forget about that one, that you smeared somebody. I know what you're all about, John. John, it's time to step away from the job. You're probably the worst out of the four people we continue to mention, because somehow you think you're self-impressed and you're better than everyone else and you're smarter than everyone else. You have 4 chins. You have 3 hairs on the top of your head. Your belly's out to here. You're a disgrace. You want a job? Just message me. I'll get you on Newsmax. You can walk away from the police department. You're a disgrace. If I'm that MOS, I would be filing complaints on this guy, because he doesn't care about anybody but himself. That's who he is. And I've known that for 15 years now, as long as I've known when I first started working for this guy. A complete embarrassment.
Well, what do you think about that, bro?
Yeah, in an honest world, the unions would be on they would have sent a strongly worded email or letter like yesterday about that. This, like, Pat Hendry had a pretty fiery speech yesterday at the hospital. And every time a cop gets shot, you hear the same old tired speech, and the unions go quiet the next coming weeks. Well, Pat, here's an opportunity to at least, we know it's how difficult it is to make grand changes to the way the city is going, but here's your opportunity to right a wrong that happened. You should be sending an email to Chell and telling him how inappropriate and self-serving that was. This is your opportunity to stand up for your cops. Okay. The unions, your job should be to make sure that the ship of the NYPD remains the same. Yes, the department changes throughout history, right? We're supposed to be getting smarter and more efficient, but it's the union's job to make sure that even as these changes happen, that the house doesn't burn down. Okay. Because even though the job changes, the unions will always be there. So whenever the job is going off the rails too far in that change, the unions should be out there saying, whoa, hold on a second here. We're going off the rails. We got to get back in line, and we got to keep the house from burning down. And so this, I'm telling you, Pat, this is your opportunity to right a wrong that happened. Okay. You need to tell Chell that nonsense can't happen again. Okay. And put them on the spot for something that's like completely like off the rails, that should not have happened.
Yeah, I mean, you just had an MOS shot, you had a civilian shot, you have a major crime scene in New York City. I don't even have a problem with you showing up with Dr. Phil and the cameras. I really don't, but they shouldn't be your focus at all. Their safety shouldn't be your concern at all. If you're coming around and you're riding with us that night, you already signed your waivers. You got your bulletproof vest on. We're good to go. Buckle your seatbelt. Let's go. We want to play cop tonight? We're going to play cop. There was absolutely no need to call for an escort. You could have got yourself there. There was absolutely, you're pulling resources away from that. And by the way, what the hell else is going on in the city? That wasn't the only thing that was happening that night. The city's completely on fire. You know, the radio's jumping, and you're worried about an escort for yourself. So you look like, oh, look at me, I'm the Don. You know, his concern, he showed his concern on the radio that night. I think that was more disgusting. Listen, people were outraged. And it wasn't just cops, by the way. There were civilians on that scene that were reaching out to us, telling us how outraged they were that you were there with a camera crew following you. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Until I heard that radio transmission, and then I was like, oh my God, that is disgusting. I understand why everybody's upset. I understand it because it shows where your priorities lie. Your priority was perception. Your priority was the TV show. Your priority was not the overall health and well-being in that scene. And you can't fake that. You can't fake that because when it's real, you know it. Dr. Phil's talking to you, you're not even hearing him. The camera crew's saying something to you, you don't even know what's going on. You can't fake what you care about. And he didn't fake it there. He showed exactly what he cared about.
100%. That's why I was saying his true colors came out, because his real emotions and what he really thinks about the cops actually came out in that call, because that was real, and his true colors just seeped out. He couldn't hide it anymore. That's why we always say what these guys do in private in the locker room is far different than what they do in public, which is why we're never worried if there was a recording around. What we say in private is the same thing that we say in public. That's why this is an Unfiltered podcast. Upstate Detective, shout out to you. Thank you so much for being a friend and listening to the podcast. We appreciate it, brother. $9.99. We definitely get some coffee and donuts. Wish we had a round of coffee over here for everyone speaking here, building this network together, everyone giving a perspective. I don't think that anyone here thinks that that's acceptable. I would think that everyone thinks that that's a problem. We have the chief of patrol asking for an escort for himself. The first and foremost response and any question should be, how is the officer? What do you need? What can we do to help? That's it. Not put yourself first. And again, we say egos over everything, and that's the bottom line. Egos of everything. And Marlon, I know you were saying something. I had something in my mind. I just got to come back to it. I'm losing my thoughts here. We're going on almost 3 hours, but
Listen,
yeah,
you're angry because I'm gonna say this.
we feel it.
You guys, John and Eric were supervised on the job as a lieutenant. You have a situation where one of your cops just had a shooting. Would you come over to worry about an escort, or would you just worry about your cop and get over there without worrying about escorts? Like that's the key, because you've been in that situation. Have you ever heard anybody worry about escorts when his cop is shot?
No, that's why it was in my head. You know what? I'm glad you put this picture of Pat Hendry, because that's what was in my head, Marlon. You spoke about the unions. And immediately, here's the reason why, is because the unions are in bed with the enemy. The enemy is the leadership of the upper echelon of the New York City Police Department. We heard Pat Hendry give a fiery speech, probably his best speech yet. But what did he direct it towards? He directed his speech towards the justice system, almost in lockstep with John Sewell when they talk about the stakeholders. But he would not put any emphasis and any blame on the leadership of the police department, which is to blame for this, because they're in bed with the enemy. And John Sewell said it himself. He said morale's great. We spoke to the union, right? According to the union, morale is great because they're in bed together. That's the bottom line.
And look at that. He has 4 chins, and his forehead gets bigger and bigger by the day with his hairs that keep falling out of his head. Time on the job, buddy. Time to leave, John.
Between the both of them, they got about 6 hairs and 4 necks. So listen, the bottom line is these guys care about themselves over everything. I hate picking on people with a body shaming. It's I don't really care. I know plenty of people that are overweight, but they're fantastic people and they care about all these. John Sewell just doesn't. He cares about himself. It just shows.
But Eric, he goes on X and he said something with that fake account. Oh, your ponytail's tied too tight, buddy. I worked for you. You used to be kissing my rear end to go out there and get you numbers. Remember that, John? Remember that? Now you want to talk all this smack when you're hiding. But John, I'll get you a job at Newsmax. Just message me. I'll take care of it for you.
Well, I mean, clearly also, right, him going around with Dr. Phil, I think you put a great point out there, Sal. You're saying, how does this benefit the city? It doesn't. It benefits John Sewell, right? Because clearly, John always says all the time, he's out there, politically engineering himself out there, right? He's but he's also putting himself out there for media, right? He's trying to get himself a job out there. He's trying to get himself potentially a podcast. So this is really beneficial to him with Dr. Phil being around. It's all about him. That's the bottom line. It's sad to the rank and file. We know the khaki pants will support him, the overwhelming majority, because of the benefit that they get being in that tiered system. But if you're general population, you're looking at John Shell saying, wow, he didn't ask how the cop is doing. All he could care about his own self. So, and that's the bottom line. So if you're involved in a vehicle pursuit that he actually perpetuated and told you that isn't.
Hold on. Yeah, I see one thing. Just Juju hating from outside the club. Juju, see these certificates here? There is no club. I was right underneath John Shell. He was my XO. I drove him in the same car. You have no idea what you're talking about. That man is a monster. I would know that. All right. And in all honesty, he should be advertising for plastic surgery. They could fix that chin in 2 minutes, probably. Maybe 2 minutes. Just go in there real quick, and they could use maybe those drones they use to fix that. Some new surgery, some new AI technology. Ask Kaz.
Yeah, but listen, the bottom line is this, dude. The bottom line is this. Nobody cares. Sonny was right. Nobody cares. Yep. None of these people care. Tell me that I'm going to play this speech by Pat Hendry. Tell me he really cares. Tell me this is honest. It's just not an honest conversation. It's not. So let me play that. We lost Marlon for a second.
His mic wasn't working.
Yeah, Marlon, I'm going to mute you for a minute and then I'll bring you back. But he is Pat Hendry after the officer shot. He's not angry that Shell's asking for an escort while this whole scene's going on. He's not angry about that at all. He starts to yell at everyone sitting there, and I'm like, who's he yelling at? Is he yelling at New York City residents who overwhelmingly support him? Is he yelling at the law enforcement officers who have to deal with this? Is he yelling at the media? I know who he's not yelling at. He's not yelling at the people that are next to him, which is who he should be yelling at, the mayor, his appointed, inept, incompetent managers all around. He's not yelling at them. He's not yelling at the Democrats who created all this. Actually, he was hanging out with them a few weekends prior in Somos in Puerto Rico, giving them donations and funding them. So he's not yelling at the people that created this environment. He's not even pointing out the laws and who voted on them. He's supposed to be in the political game. So instead, he just decides today, I'm going to pretend to be Pat Lynch. I think he's the Timu Pat Lynch. Again, I'm no fan of Pat Lynch, but he was a much better speaker than Pat Hendry. He put on the same show. He put on a better show. He is Pat Hendry after a cop shot. Tell me you believe him, because I don't.
Patrick Hendry, president of the Police Benevolent Association. We are truly grateful that our hero brother is on the road to recovery here at Jamaica Hospital. But as police officers, when we come to work every day and we stand in that roll call, we never know what type of job we're going to respond to. And this police officer didn't know he was going to end up in this emergency room at Jamaica Hospital. He didn't know when he ran out of the 103 station house, when he heard a robbery in progress. He didn't know he was going to confront a brazen, dangerous career criminal that didn't think twice about killing a New York City police officer. I can tell you this, all New Yorkers, you can depend on New York City police officers to do our jobs. We will continue to take dangerous criminals off the streets. We have your back. I can tell you who doesn't have your back. Our criminal justice system. It continues to let us down every single day. 17 arrests on lifetime parole. Arrested 7 times while on lifetime parole. What does lifetime parole mean? I think we all would agree. You get arrested, you stay behind bars when you're a lifetime parole. But it didn't happen here. Our criminal justice system is broken from the top to the bottom. New York City police officers are sick and tired of being assaulted on the streets. We're sick and tired of being shot out. It has to end. We need all New Yorkers once and for all to demand change in our criminal justice system. We were in court today for an individual who was involved in killing our hero brother, Jonathan Dilla. We will continue to be in courthouses across this city demanding change. And I invite all New Yorkers to show up with us. Demand change in our criminal justice system. It needs to change. What is it going to take? The time is now. Change the criminal justice system, top to the bottom. It has to be done. Lives depend on it. We need that change, and we need it now.
All right, we'll take some.
You know what? Pat Hendry said he invites all New Yorkers to make change. Well, we invited you to come on this podcast so that we could actually work together and build a network to create change and make better morale, better camaraderie for the rank and file. And you didn't even respond. You completely ignored our professional request for you to come on this podcast, especially when you were running. And now that you're actually present, you don't care. Again, we invite you to come on here and speak about the real issues. Let's talk about the leadership of the police department that's responsible for the demise of the NYPD. That's responsible for the low morale. That's responsible for police officers being shot at a higher rate, that are being assaulted at a higher rate than they've ever been before. The day prior, we have 3 innocent bystanders that are killed by a homicidal maniac. And yet, he just continues to point at the justice system. I'm not saying the justice system is not a failure. It's an epic fail. But it's also the leadership of the police department, which he does not point fingers at. You're yelling at everyone, but you're not yelling at them. And you said we. Don't say we, because you haven't been a police officer. Your boots haven't been on the ground in a long time, and probably almost 2 decades. And yet he's going to say we. They're in bed with the enemy. The bottom line is the leadership of the NYPD that does not support the rank and file that's out there. And John Shell showed you his response to the scene by asking for his own escort, being more concerned with himself, being more concerned with his media tour, shows the response. It shows the overwhelming majority of what the upper echelon thinks of the rank and file. And at no point will Pat Hendry call them out. He calls out everyone else. It's easy. It's very convenient to say while you're standing there with the enemy. But at no point, he should have looked over at the dais and said, hey, I hold you responsible for what happened today. I hold you responsible, and we need to make it better and say that it's an epic fail, and we need to make this better. But not at one point does he say that, because it's not beneficial for Pat Hendry and the trustees and the board members of the union. The union doesn't care. That's the bottom line. Your union dues are pretty much useless and a waste of time.
Yeah, what do you think, Sal?
I see a comment right here from Mikey G. He's been saying it over and over. And you're right. The criminal justice system is broken. But here's what you don't know that Pat Hendry hasn't told you. We always refer back to this place, but Pat Hendry and his protege, Pat Lynch, used to patronize and frequent Con Sofrito. And you know who was there? All these state legislators, all the city council people, the mayor, the lieutenant governor, the attorney general. You could have discussed legislation right there. Nobody would have saw you other than some hoodlums, maybe some felons, some drug dealers, but they were there tucked away. So I don't want to hear this. This is a show. You guys, if you follow politics, I've been involved in that for a while. That is all politics, what he just did. The real look, if they wanted to, they all get together in a room like one of Jimmy's new places, and they all sit there and they could all discuss all these all the laws, how to change them, because they all party together, they all hang out together, but they don't do anything. So all of this is just bluster. Unfortunately, I was there, we were there as cops. You're on your own. In reality, who really has your back? It's going to be a small contingent of people, probably some of the guys you work with, maybe a few of your supervisors. Some people really care about you, but then you're going to have like a blustering buffoon like this guy that, and he's sitting there when he knows that he could go to city council, go to state legislation and try to change this. In fact, he's been in the same room with them plenty of times at a place that all shouldn't be hanging out in. So that's the irony of this. But really, he could have turned around and said, hey, Eric, did you talk to Carl Hasty about changing that rule? Hey, who's there? Madry and Kaz. What do you know about this? Is it why did you guys ask for an escort when you should have been asking if this cop is okay and what happened out there? He doesn't do that. This is all politics. It's all a show. Politics is theater for the ugly, especially for a guy like John Shell, just to point that one out. But that's just the fact. It's all theater. This guy could easily end everything in one place. And I love how he uses his hands. I don't know if he's watching a lot of Trump or whatever it is, but there was too much hand gesturing there. Yeah, John's got it.
It's always the same thing, dude. It's always pack the courtrooms, criminal justice system's broken, zero solution on how to do it. Fund the people that are destroying the criminal justice system. Maul, what do you think about Pat Hendry?
Yeah, it's always the same speeches, the same vague speeches and no action, Instead of it, I know it's a lot, okay? But the unions, you can start small, okay? You can start small by fixing the house and preventing it from burning down, The unions should honestly be on this show like once a week, just to explain like what's going on and what's happening in the department. The unions, in an honest world, again, should be the ones who kind of they're kind of watching over the department, kind of acting as that kind of third branch or fourth branch to make sure the department doesn't go off the rails, instead of the same tired speeches. Okay, I want to see action. What has changed since the death of Detective Dillon? What has changed? What the next cop that gets shot and God forbid killed, we're gonna hear the same things over again, and this has been going on every year since at least I was a cop. It's been going on. I want to see action. Let your actions do the talking. Not these useless speeches that go nowhere. And I mean, look at the reactions on the faces of the dais behind them. It's like you get this feeling like they're like, okay, here this guy again. Here he is again. It's just, I'm just so tired of it at this point.
Well, that's the key point right there, Marlon, that you said, right? They're doing the same thing. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, getting the same results. They're not getting any results because they don't care. They just want to put out some noise, and that's what Pat Lynch did his entire administration. And Pat Hendry is just carrying the torch, doing the same thing. Just make some noise, make it look like we're putting on a show. Just like when people get divorced, right? The husband's attorney, the wife's attorney, they go in the back room, pretend they're having a fight. They come out, pretend they're arguing. Meanwhile, they're all going out to dinner together. It's the same thing. The union, they pretend that they're having an argument. They go out to dinner with the leadership also because they're all in bed together and they don't really care. And you're right. They should come on this podcast because the overwhelming majority of the police department watches this podcast, loves this podcast, and there are some haters, but they watch it. So if they really want to get a message out, they don't even need it from a union meeting. They could come on here and that message would get out, and then we get the trust and credibility of the members of the police department. But they don't care. They don't care. They just want the money. That they want to make sure they get the money. That's all they care.
No, yeah, they're never coming on. They're never coming on this podcast, dude. So, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even want them on this damn podcast at this point. Go on your little stupid media that nobody watches. Go on a podcast where you're getting 38 views, and the only time you're getting views is if we text about it or make fun about it. I like you're going on podcasts that nobody listens to, but your whole rank and file listens to it. So what'd they do? They didn't take the opportunity to come on here. What'd they do? No, they smeared us as an openly racist platform. They used a seated councilwoman. They used the Shamrim. They used fraternal organizations from the NYPD.
They used the bootlicker.
They used the bootlicker. They used a fake media outlet. They used the actual media outlets to attempt to smear us as openly racist, to hide from the fact that they're cowardly. They sit here and they say, oh, we didn't contribute anything. None of us contributed anything to the NYPD when we were there. Now we have all these great ideas. Couldn't be furthest from the truth. These people couldn't shine our shoes, and they know it. And that's why they'll never sit down with any of us individually or together as a group. And at this point, I don't even want them to. Keep hanging out in Smith and Lewinsky, John. Hang out there every day. Get fat. The rest of the unions, go wherever you want. Rayos or Peter Luger's, whatever. Get fat. Get careless. You guys are phonies. You got exposed, and you know it. Same thing I said. If I ever run in New York City, I'm not sitting down with the unions and asking for their endorsement. You want to endorse me? I'm going to interview you and make sure that I'll accept your endorsement. I'm not taking that endorsement. Same thing here. You want to come on this podcast? You beg. I'm not asking you, none of you to come on here. Hell out of here. I don't want none of them on here. They're losers. They have no spine. They're cowardly. And when they saw that everyone and everybody was listening to this, and they still are, by the way, they didn't come on here, but yet they do any podcast they can, regardless if it gets 1 view or 2 views, and nobody in the rank and files listening to them at all. And the podcast that they hear, you know why they're listening to them? Not because it's good. They're doing it to make fun of you. They're doing it to get content to abuse you and say, look at what they're saying here. Look what this person's saying here. You know, it's disgusting, dude. It's completely disgusting. You know?
Put them in the same category. Bums. John, they're bums. That's the bottom line. You know what? Gold Shields, that's why their name is Gold Shields, because they care about the upper echelon. We heard some of their podcasts, and they pretty much just, I can't even say the words. I can't say it on this podcast what they were doing, but, they had a little left on their chin after that podcast. But they didn't say White Shields. The name of it is Gold Shields. So they don't care about cops. They don't care about White Shields. They only care about Gold Shields. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. They'll never come on because they would get asked pointed questions and follow up. You know, these grand speeches that they always give, these grand vague speeches with no objectives. They allow them to continuously say, oh yeah, we're working for you. We're trying to make changes in Albany right now. You know, instead of making like small pointed objectives, which you can measure. They give these grand speeches where you'll never be able to measure the progress they've made because they're not making any progress. They're always like, oh yeah, we're working it. We got some guys in Albany. We're talking to Albany right now. You've been doing that for since I was a cop, and probably long before that. What have you done? It's all a game. It's all a game. And at this point, one of the things I say, if I go back, I'm going to find a way that the DEA never gets my dues, because what's the point? You're not working. You're clearly not working for us anymore. Clearly.
You should run the power structure. What about you, Sal? The PBA? You a fan of the PBA? Would you let them come on your show? PBA or anybody, Shell, anything?
I would never say no to anything, but I think they'd be afraid of what I would ask. Obviously, I know a lot of the inner goings on, especially around these clowns. John Shell in particular, who I know, we were in the same car to drive this guy. So it's not like I don't know him. So I doubt he would try to say he wants to be an internet tough guy, but being a real life tough guy, internet tough guy, two different things. Or maybe he'll use his bootlicker. He has a personal bootlicker, his personal DCPI. He likes to use that proxy. I know the whole game with these guys. It's really a clown show. I'm trying to be a professional, and these clowns are on the opposite side. They're like little like man-child, Kaz Dordry. They're like children who act like children, but they're adults. And they have all these little gadgets and tools and AI and all this stuff. And really, would you give your child a computer? Because they kind of have the mentality of a 5-year-old. So would you give a 5-year-old your computer, and then when you see it's all broken, you go, oh my God, but that's what you're dealing with these people. That's the mentality of these people. How they're still there, I don't know. You'd have to ask Eric Adams. He knows it all apparently, but what else can we say about this whole thing? I was disgusted by the whole incident. They're all in bed with each other, like Marlon says, like you say, Eric. It's politics, it's theater for the ugly. That's what it is. It's all it is. You couldn't make it in Hollywood, so you go into politics because ugly people succeed there. That's been the running joke forever. So, again, what you saw with Pat Hendry and all these guys, it's all theater. And you don't have to go to, what was that steakhouse you said in Peter Luger's? You could have gone to Con Sofrito. They're all hanging out there. You could have asked Fat Joe. You could ask all the felons. Hey, is that criminal association? Is that even a rule? Because you guys are all violating it right here in front of everybody and putting it on the internet, and then nobody does anything about it. So, it's one big joke. That's what you have here. The job is a joke. This mayor is a joke. You need to be serious. That next election, New York City, you know who to vote for. It's going to be Curtis Sliwa. Don't divert for anyone else, because so far, Curtis is the only one that makes comments. He's the only one that mentions anything. He's the only one that tries to hold people at task. All these other candidates, they're all in sync. Remember what I tell you, politics is theater for the ugly. That's all it is. Curtis Lee was not a politician. That's why I would tend to go that route. Just like you went with Trump. Trump wasn't a politician. Kamala Harris was. It's the same instance in the mayor. And you definitely need a new mayor in New York City, somebody who's going to care about the constituents and put public safety first. And also, you have to reel in the money, taxpayers' money, not waste it, not have them represent you illegally in your lawsuits where you commit sexual misconduct that does not fall under the scope of your duties. You can't be throwing away paying money for all these stupid programs and all these the migrant shelters, all this other stuff. That's got to stop. That's what you're going to be voting for in New York City. I suggest everybody who's listening, if you live in New York City, do a little soul searching because, you voted for Carl Hasty again. I mean, really, you need to do some soul searching, really.
Listen, we're getting close to 3 hours here. I think that we covered a lot of ground. I think friends and listeners to the podcast, we really appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, smash that like button, share this out on X, repost it. If anyone missed the live, almost 3 hours, a lot of great information talking about the new police commissioner, talking about politics affecting police work, talking about the unions, their response. Before we wrap it up, John, do you have anything else you want to put in? I think we should start getting the closing arguments.
I think it's going to be an exciting time. I think we're going to get even a lot more content coming forward. I think like I said, I think this could potentially be the best move made. I think any move that Eric Adams does, I'm going to say it over and over again, he should not be the mayor. He should have been removed. The governor should have removed him. She's incompetent. She's inept. She's corruptible. That's why she didn't. She didn't remove him. She was cowardly. The New York City Council has the ability to remove him. They are the same. They did not. They haven't even spoke about it. Most New Yorkers don't know that. They did not remove Eric Adams. There's also a number of elected officials that can convene a board and remove him. They also did not. The entire political structure of New York City needs to change, overhaul. I'm not just talking about the Democrats. I'm talking about the Republicans. It all needs to be grassrooted. Maybe even a third party needs to come up in New York City because there's something very wrong with the political structure in New York City. They control the New York City Police Department. I think the appointment of Jessica Tisch could potentially be a good thing for the rank and file, could be a good thing for public safety in New York City. And the only reason that I think that is due to the weight that she has behind her, the political power that's behind her, the political money that's behind her and her family. I agree with my friend who said that he doesn't believe a Tish is going to be subservient to a mayor or Adams. I'm going to say the same thing. I'm not saying that it's going to be positive in the direction. I think the potential for it to be positive in the direction. Anybody else Adams chooses is a puppet and is beholden to him, is worried about their pay, is worried about their structure. This is a female. She doesn't take a salary from New York City. So I'm saying right now, but I'm getting my popcorn ready. I'm going to be sitting here eating, watching it, seeing what the hell's going on. Exciting times ahead, we'll keep bringing it, Sal, what do you got?
I say the same thing. We have to see what say this woman has as police commissioner in name only. I still stand by my prediction because I know how politics works, and I know how Eric Adams works. She probably is in charge of technology as a police commissioner, but she will not be stepping on any one of his boys' toes. So if anybody thought she's going to fire Kaz Daughtry, think again. Kaz Daughtry is the heir apparent. If Eric Adams makes it through everything, he will pass that baton over to Kaz Daughtry, who will run for major office or something like that, as long as they're not entangled in any federal corruption probes. That is the only exception. Other than that, it will be business as usual, and we'll continue to see Eric try to pander for his part, and it's pretty pathetic, actually, that he shows up to the UFC. The guy doesn't even know what a sport is. He's never had any sports other than he wants to be seen, much like these other clowns do. They always want to be in front of a camera. When does public safety become the main thing that people should be worrying about? Because that's what police officers are meant to think about first. Public safety. This administration thinks about it last. It's a kickback city, and it's all about themselves, enriching themselves, self-serving, going to the nightclub, showing off everything. That this isn't working. Like I said on my own show, this isn't working. New York City really needs to do some soul searching. I saw some comments. Curtis Sliwa is not anti-cop. He's very pro-cop. He does talk to many cops. The same people that have issues with Eric Adams, Curtis Sliwa does know them or talk to them, probably privately or quietly, because Eric, if he finds out, will lose his mind. But he's very much for the police. That's what I'm telling you. Bill Chapman would more than likely be a police commissioner under a Mayor Sliwa. But you need someone like that who's not corruptible, that doesn't have ties to any of these corruptible individuals, to be the leader. That someone who will go to the state legislators and say, we need these laws changed. We have to sit down now and figure something out. I know it's 55 Democrats to 1 Republican, and I'm a Republican mayor or whatever, but we need to sit down and do this. That's what Eric Adams doesn't do. That's why you continue to see this problem in New York City. It's not just all Eric Adams. You can't just blame, but the state legislation, city council, they need to start changing some of these rules, these laws that they have. That's why you have a lot of this stuff going on, and everyone's been complacent. So once again, get your popcorn ready. In New York City, you really need to do some soul searching, because that mayoral race, which will feature certain city council seats, you have to really do some diligent research here. No more low information voter. The low information person is who Eric Adams in particular and his ilk in the Democrat Party, who they target. Low information people. Vote for me, I'm black. Vote for me, we hang out in the same place. Vote for me, we shop in the same store and buy the same suits. That's what they're looking for. Don't look at me for my, that I was taking a 20% cut of this company that has business in front of the city. Don't look at that. That's what you're dealing with. Get smart.
Yeah, but before you go, just guys, at the Sal Greco is the show on YouTube. He's about 900 something followers at this point. There's over 1,000 people on here. Do us a favor, go over to the Sal Greco show, get this man monetized, check out his content. There's no reason he shouldn't crack that 1,000 right after this show. So if you guys could do us that one favor today, we'd appreciate it. Marlon, what are your final closing thoughts on this? No, your mic's off, dude.
Yeah, sorry. Sal is spot on. This city and state needs to do some soul searching, and we're uncompetitive with other states and cities, and that divide is only going to get worse because Trump has promised to bring back factories to America. And I've said this before, that those factories, where are they being built? They're being built in the South, in the Midwest. They're not being built in New York State. They're not being built in New York City. And with those factories come jobs, and people go where the jobs are. People go where they're treated best and where they have a better quality of life. And if this place doesn't wake up and realize that New York City is like that high school star quarterback who graduated and years down the line goes back to that high school and still thinks he's the man. Time has moved on. You have to remain competitive, otherwise your city will become like where Detroit was in the 1950s and post 1960s. Detroit was once a place where everybody wanted to live, where there was a lot of jobs, there's a lot of, it was a good place to live, and that's no longer the case. Now they may be waking up now, but that's 40, 50 years after the fact. People in New York City have to wake up and realize that we have to compete and make this place a nice place to live. Now with Tish, the changes she's making have to be, police, we're a service. We provide a service, and that's a human first service. And whatever changes she makes, they have to be human centric changes. You can't totally forget about the human element of policing, because if you do, you're only making this place even more inhospitable to live in. And you're only going to contribute to that hemorrhaging of people and businesses. So that's all I got to say. By the way, if you're a union, if you're in the job and you're watching this right now, please go to a union meeting, participate, see what's going on with your unions, and you can't just complain about what's happening. This is something I realized, unfortunately, too late, just as I was fired. But you have to go to a union meeting. You have to hear what's going on, and you have to participate. Okay, because what's happening now is going to change the future of the job, and it's only going to impact your quality of life on the job. So please participate and go to a meeting. Thanks.
I just got to laugh. Driver's seat is dying to watch The View. He says, guys, can you wrap this up? I got to watch Whoopi. Listen, shout out. Listen, thank you so much to friends and listeners to the podcast. We really appreciate it. I want to thank Marlon. Thank you so much for being here. Sal, of course, my brother. You guys are brothers to me. You are the finest Unfiltered family, giving your perspective, your opinion. This space, First Amendment speech, is honored. We have a lot of people here with like minds, and we also have people that are in opposition. We have trolls, and we welcome everybody. Your speech is important. Thoughts are not against the law in this space. But I will say this. I actually hope that Jessica Tisch succeeds. That's why we do this podcast, a force from outside to help the cops, help within, boots on the ground. I want her to succeed because if she succeeds in morale, if she succeeds in camaraderie, she makes it better for the friends that we still have out there with their boots on the ground. We want a better law enforcement. We want a better New York City. I hope she does succeed. Again, I'm going to say what I believe. I believe there's not going to be a power struggle. I believe that she and her family have way too much power, and money talks. And I think John Shell knows that. I think he knows to stay in his space. I think Kaz Daughtry and Tariq Shepard know to stay in their space because this family has a lot of money. And John Shell wants a job out there with Newsmax or one of these media opportunities. And this family can really impede with the money that they have, and he knows that. So I think if they all stay in their space, Kaz Daughtry will be the police commissioner of operations in the street. I think she will do her technology. If they start to butt heads, as we saw with Tariq Shepard and Tom Donlan, I think she'll win that battle. That's my perception. I think Eric Adams right now at this point will say, hey, listen, my hands are off. She's the police commissioner. So with that, it's been 3 hours and 5 minutes into it. Thank you so much. Share the space out. Go to Sal Greco. Check out his show, The Sal Greco Show. Great perspective, great opinion. Support Marlon. He should not be terminated. He should be a detective with the New York City Police Department. Support New York's finest retired Unfiltered podcast, Coffee and Donuts. We appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Have an outstanding day. We will see you tomorrow. Friday's roundtable. We want perspective. We want your comments. Jump in the chat tomorrow, 8:05 Eastern Time, live. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, just one point off of John Shell for your podcast. If you do the right thing, you could get those big sponsors for your podcast, the Gotham Brothers. No one's going to watch it other than to make fun of you. But hey, you'll have plenty of money, but you're still going to have to sleep with yourself at night, my friend. So
there's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime. But nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888-901 Blue. That's 888-901 Blue.